Boom! Welcome to Ask Mark number 100. God, it is bloody brilliant to be online today. I'm going to wait for some of you to come online, and then have I got a freaking story for you. We were supposed to be having all our guests here today. In fact, we do have a couple of guests, amazing guests coming in online. So I've got some amazing stuff for you online. But I was supposed to have people here with me, and not even here, in fact, out there. Had a full studio set up, had the lights, had everything working. And then Brisbane went into lockdown. So unfortunately, Jamia, our dear friend who is going to be here with us today, won't be able to be here in studio with us. Oh, get out of here. Won't be able to be here in studio with us. And then Matthew, whom we all love dearly. We love our Matthew. He basically makes this channel. He is just the most amazing videographer anyone could possibly ask for. Matthew, oh God, I don't want to say it, I believe has been arrested on his way here. So we're going to help him all out with that. I'm going to be doing everything I can. We're going to get him out of that. That's all good. But for Ask Mark 100, there has been a couple of last minute blemishes. So the studio had to abandon the studio, come back in here. And I've got the questions online. Maddie had a lot of the questions. Now, can you leave your comment, by the way? Because the comments, if you leave a comment, pop it in the chat box. So we've had to move the studio back in here, and I've got the questions online. I was going to have paper versions, but they're going to be online. The good news is we do have our online guests coming. So in about an hour from now, we're going to have, oh, can I see it here? Oh, here we go. Why would the comment show? There we go. Angela says hi. Beautiful. Lucy says hi. Notification popped up and hello, I'm here. Carolyn says hi. Oh, I feel like I'm not on my own in here anymore. Excellent. Excellent. Yes, poor old Matthew. He's on the side of the highway somewhere dealing with police officers. So we all send our well wishes out to Matthew. He really did want to be here today, and I'm pretty bummed he couldn't make it, actually. So he had a bunch of your questions as well, so I'm going to grab them from online instead. Camera's probably not as good because he's not here. Lighting's probably not as good because he's not here, so you're getting the uncut version today. I'm sorry, I can't do any better. We tried to get him here. We tried to push through the lockdown, and it's going to be very expensive to bail him out of jail now. What a day. What a world. 2021. I feel like we're still in 2020. Nikki says, first time catching you live. Hello from Arizona. Great to have you here. Great to have you here. I love that the comments are coming through now. I really felt like I was talking on my own for a while there. Hey, Ask Mark number 100. Going to get to your questions today. It's all about giving back to you, to say a big thank you, because you've been supporting me for a long time now, and I'm so appreciative of that. It's given me the opportunity to work with beautiful clients. And say what you will about 2020, the fact that I stayed home every day, the fact that I was just able to work hard, create new programs. I've just seen such transformations in my one-on-one clients. And then you leave such lovely comments as well, which I'm so appreciative of. Some of you getting married, some of you in beautiful relationships. I have so much fun with my clients doing this stuff, and it's all thanks to you and your support that, some women find me and want to work with me one-on-one. So that really means the world to me. I'm very grateful and appreciative of you. We got from Budapest is in the house, Daytona Beach. I got my water here. Hi from the Netherlands. Helena Hart's online. Helena, you want to drop in for a bit? Should we get Helena on to say hi? You want to come in for a little bit later on, Helena? Let me know. This is pretty casual today. So I got some questions. If you have questions, make sure to leave them in the chat. I would love to. Oh, I see what I've done here. I've got Angela's question on Angel's thing online. God, Mark, learn how to live stream. Get some tips from Helena. There's Coralie. There's from the Philippines in the house. There's Helena. Look at me learning how to use computers. Look at me go. We got Belgium in the house. Golly gosh, I miss Belgium. Helena, you got fans in the house. Look at this. Everyone's loving Helena here. Hello, Helena. Helena, bring Helena on. Hello, live. We got San Diego in the house. I love San Diego. San Diego is so Brisbane. It's such a Brisbane. Love it. We've got Venice, Italy in the house. Canada's in the house. Wow, so many of you online. Thank you for joining me. Hey, today, as I I say, we're going to have a very special guest at both 3 o'clock Pacific time and 3:30 Pacific time. We got here, look at this. Melbourne just came out of intense 4-way lockdown. It's tough, but there's not much you can do. Just buy all the toilet paper and pasta. Brisbane's on for 3 days. 3 days, that's it. And everyone's still bought all the stuff from the shops. Look who it is. We've got a friend of the channel as well. Anya Grace is here with us. Beautiful, beautiful. Charlotte NC in the house. Hey, today's really a thankful, me giving back, saying thanks, and just answering your questions live. So if you have them, post them in the chat. Let's chat about them. As I say, we've got some special guests coming in about an hour's time. But for now, it's just you and me hanging out. So as I say, unfortunately, Jamia couldn't make it because she respects the law. Maddie tried to make it and copped the wrath of the law. So you're dealing with Mark. Mark and maybe Lucy. Maybe Lucy, if we can get Lucy in the shot. So let's get to some questions, shall we? We've got a bunch of questions coming up from the videos. Hi from Hungary. Sexy Cindy says, hey from Florida. Hey, I'm going to move over to some questions here if I can find them. Maddie from the side of the road has sent me through some of your questions. Let's have a look here if I can find them. I'm going to say, shoot through any more you have with a smiley face. Let's see. Helena says running out the door now, but next time I'd love to. Excellent. Book that in for us, Helena. Hey, let's get on to some questions. What do we got here? The first question is from Joanna Howe. And Joanna Howe says, I am not comfortable with my boyfriend liking and following hot girls on Instagram, especially those who are accessible. I'm not comfortable with my boyfriend liking and following hot girls on Instagram, especially those who are accessible. So I'm assuming by accessible, Joanna means living in the community or somewhere around. Kasani says, I'm wondering if you have any pets. I certainly do. She's in a little cage down here. We're airport training her. Anyway, back to Joanna's question. So accessible means that they are not superstars and that they live in the same city. Picked it. Except that he's a great boyfriend. Generous, kind, fun, and lovable. So he's a great boyfriend. How do I know if it's my insecurity or if it's really inappropriate? And what's the best way to have a conversation about it? Thank you, Mark. What a modern dating problem, right? 10 years ago, this wouldn't have even been a problem. This is such a recent thing. It's a really good question. And look, when I speak to clients, I can usually get them into their intuition, Joanna, and have a sense as to, hey, is this some of your own insecurity and abandonment stuff coming up? In which case, that's still okay. We'll talk about that in a second. That's okay. Or is there elements of him being genuinely disrespectful as a boyfriend? Because you approach it slightly differently depending which it is. The key piece is if something's upsetting you, you can still share it with him. And a lot of women don't realize that you can share your feelings. You can share hurt. You can share insecurities without being needy. Okay, without putting pressure on the guy. It's if you walk in there and say, hey, this makes me feel insecure. You have to stop following these girls. You're going to get so much pushback. Maybe he'll comply, but he'll resent the fact he's doing it because he's only doing it for you, and you'll build resentment, and that's not building freedom in the relationship. So I would say the first thing you can do is just express how this is making you feel while protecting his freedom. So you might say something like, hey, can I share something really honest with you? And he says, yeah, of course. And you first say, hey, look, I first want to say you're a great boyfriend. You do this well, you do this well, you do this well. Like acknowledge all the things he does well. And then I also want to share with you that when blank happens, I feel blank. So when you're following girls on Instagram, I feel scared, I feel insecure, and I just really wanted to be honest and be open about that. And then depending on his response, you may even add an action step or a request of him. You might say, hey, it would mean a lot to me if, and this is where you got to decide what you want. Do you actually want him to follow less, or do you want him to be more open with his phone? Maybe you just want to share the feeling and get his response on it, because it sounds like he's a good boyfriend otherwise. It's one of those ones where men are very used to just catering to your fear of abandonment in these situations. And sometimes there is an opportunity to do your own work here. Like, I had a client recently where the man was really, really honest with her. And he said, like, if you want me to be totally honest, occasionally I do have fleeting thoughts of like, are you the right person, or is this like the right thing for me? But her intuition, like, this is a solid guy. Her intuition was like, this is a good guy. He's putting in the effort. And he's just like, he was just talking, these are just fleeting thoughts. And they come in very occasionally. It's not like a gut feeling you're the wrong woman. It's just my little bit of uncertainty and me questioning myself. He's like, I do this in every area of life. It doesn't affect how I feel about you. But those little fleeting thoughts and his honesty about it triggered a big fear of abandonment in my client. So in that case, we worked through the fear of abandonment because the guy wasn't actually doing anything like wrong in that sense. He was just being honest. He's like, I'm a dude, I have fleeting thoughts, but they're very occasional. But that's the kind of thing that can trigger a lot of fear of abandonment, right? And I see this especially in women. And for men, they get a lot of this stuff around triggering a fear of loss of freedom. So what you don't want is the guy just complying for the sake of complying, because you build these little types of dishonesty into your relationship. So bottom line, you got to have a really open discussion with him about Instagram use. And maybe this is one where you go to him, you share that feeling, and he chooses to change the behavior. Or he doesn't choose to, but he becomes super reassuring about it, right? You've got to sort of allow him to hear this and then decide what he wants to do with that information. And if there comes a point where you want to set a hard boundary, you can definitely do that. But you can't set a hard boundary over everything. The fleeting thoughts is an example where most men just won't speak about that. Like, I think every man has a little bit of uncertainty pop into his mind at some point, right? We all have questions, but most of us keep it quiet because we don't want to trigger something in you. So if a man can be open up and honest about that and say, yeah, no, I'm solid on you, but these thoughts pop in occasionally, but it's not meaningful. Yeah, that can be super triggering, and that can be work that you can do. So bottom line, open discussion on this one and sharing the feelings without controlling his actions, and then building a solution as a couple together. It's a pretty advanced problem, even though it's a seemingly little thing. This is actually quite a high level problem to resolve. Cindy says, how are you feeling today? I'm feeling great, Cindy. I'm a little sad Matthew can't be here with us, but I'm feeling really good. Let's have a look. My gosh, all the questions. Thank you for sharing. Showa says, I love your content. Who else have we got here? What's this comment? Hey, Mark, how can you be so cute? Oh, look at that. Thank you, Mama. Thank you. You guys are just wonderful. Thank you. Here we go. Let's go to this one. Sexy Cindy says, how do you communicate to a guy that you want him to call you on the phone and text you more after you've already talked to him about it previously? Cindy, I'm assuming this is some kind of dating situation, like you've maybe been on one date or two dates, but it's not obviously an established relationship. I'm a big fan of green lighting and then leaving it, right? So many women try to work to get guys into them, if I just send another text, I'll get him to call. None of that, right? Let the guy know for sure, and you've done that. Hey, I'm not a big texter. I'd love to hear from you more. If you can do it on the phone call, or if you can leave at least a voice message, is always better than text. But once the guy has that green light, there comes a point where you've got to sit back in your feminine energy and see what he does with that. Because otherwise you're working the whole time. You're playing out a working model of love. It's like the client who, she initiates every day. She's like, hey, when are we seeing each other again? Hey, it'd be great to I want to, are you free this Saturday? And then, you meet up on Saturday, and then 4 days goes by and she gets anxious again. And then it's like, oh, are you free this weekend? And then, oh, anxiety's relieved. And I see him again. But the problem is you're training yourself into a model where you can't really trust. Right? Because every date happens right after you initiate and right after you say, hey, when am I seeing you? So the communication is the thing that comes into your nervous system is I have to work for love. And that's not a very trusting model. That's not a very safe model. You can't really lean back in your feminine and also have to work for love. Right? A child with that model is not the healthiest, most receiving child. Children, when we parent them in the best way possible, we all do the best we can, but children, I receive love just for being. I don't have to get an A grade for you to love me. I don't have to set the table for you to love me. I am worthy of love just by being. So the way this applies in dating, which I'm a big fan of, is you give the green light. You say, hey, yeah, I want to see you again. But then you don't keep doing it. You see how a man shows up after that. And that will filter out some guys you like, unfortunately. And that scares a lot of us. It'll filter out girls you like as well if you're a guy. But then once you do that, the people who are coming in, then especially the men who are coming in, since men initiate a lot of this stuff, you can then trust that the man will continue that. Like my partner, she said, you know, I remember dating you and just like I learned to trust that you'd make the next move with me. You always knew that I wanted you to, and I communicated that, but I learned to trust you. And we've now done a year long distance, freaking COVID, right? But how important has that little trust been for her that she could just know that, you know, she could trust and feel safe? So I'm a big fan of green light the guy, make it obvious that you like him, but don't keep doing it. Make it obvious that you want him to call you, but don't keep doing it. Once you've made it obvious, then lean back. See what he does with that. Don't do it for him. And the men who show up after that step will be the ones you can truly trust and feel safe with. The rest will be men you have to work for, and they're just going to leave you more and more anxious. Good question. Thank you for sharing it. Who else has a lovely question? Cindy says, you have asked. Cindy, you've been following the channel for such a long time. So special shout out to you. Thank you so much for your loyal support. Means the world to me. Means the world to me. If you've just joined us, we got no Jamia because Jamia follows the law. We got no Matthew because Matthew doesn't follow the law and the law found him. And we do have some special guests though coming on in about 40 minutes time. So get excited for that. Queen of Swords. Hey, it's Ask Mike 100. Thank you for being here and thank you for supporting me. 100 videos. That was probably 5 years ago, Ask Mike number 1, in my living room over on Cav Road. Hello, Mark. Can you please tell me when a guy breaks up because of his insecurity, but stalks you online through his friends and fake profiles, calls you through a private number and hangs up? This is just, get him out of here. What is this? Get him out. Get him out. He's just, no, don't deal with that. Deja Vu, what do you do? What can you do if someone starts ignoring you? I love your videos. Again, I'm a big fan of shine your light. You know, when you're on a date, have fun. Like I always say to my clients, we do all the dating stuff, and then as soon as you step on the date, forget everything and have some fucking fun. Right? So get out there, have fun. You know, men come to you for your energy. Right? Men love feminine energy. They come to you because they're stuck in their masculine energy. They're stuck in their rigidity. They're planning. They need woman. They need feminine. Right? And you have that. So share that energy. And then if that energy is ignored, that energy isn't being appreciated. So why would you continue to share it with someone who's not appreciating it? This is how you filter. The people who appreciate it become your dating pool. The people who don't wander away and do their own thing. And that's okay. You want them to. But too often we get stuck chasing people who aren't putting in the effort being the key word, to appreciate us. Next question. How do you get a man to talk more throughout the day? It was me who would only text him once, lol, but now I feel better and want more. Look, I'm assuming this is an early dating situation. I truly believe the biggest thing is with text is that too many of us rely on it to build our security pyramids, right? We all need security. And like a pyramid, we need to like fill that up and have like a solid pyramid of security. But too many of us kind of use bricks called texting. And I think texting is a pretty weak brick. You might build a few of it, but you know, when someone has real security in a relationship, it's like it's deeper than labels, it's deeper than texting. It's the trust you build, it's the bond you build, it's the showing up for each other on a consistent basis. You know, my partner would know I'm there, you know, even if we don't text all day, right? And that was established quite early. So I'm a big fan of move to mediums that can build better types of security, like at minimum your voice messages, and then get onto your phone calls, especially in COVID times, between your phone, your video calls, and if you can meet up in person. When someone's connecting with you in real time, those bricks in your security pyramid are a million times more solid. Not to mention that just being off your phone during the day is sometimes healthy. It's someone's at work, you want them to put their phone away. So I think wherever you can, the best thing you can do with this is focus more on your phone calls, focus more on your quality interactions, take your security from those. And then if those aren't forthcoming, text is kind of a low-hanging fruit. You're not going to build security long-term out of text. So I would say raise your standards, have phone calls, video calls, real-time chat, and use your intuition. Because text really nullifies a lot of women's intuition. I mean, you still get a vibe from it, but you're almost taking out 70% of your best tool, which is your intuition, by relying on text. So use your other means, set your boundaries around that, and then just rule out men who aren't willing to call you and who aren't willing to talk in real time. Because if they're not willing to do that, then they're probably not super willing to build a lot of trust with you or to build a lot more. Great question. Thanks for sharing it. Yes. Great to see you, Gwyneth, as well. Aloha Miriam says you believe him, you can't change someone. Cindy, who asked a question before, just let me scroll back to find Cindy's question. Cindy said, actually, this was a question we had before. How do you communicate to him you want him to call you on the phone and text you more when you've already heard about it previously? And I assumed it was a dating, but Cindy actually says, no, it's my boyfriend. Well, this is a chance to go a lot, you have a lot more leeway here. Hey, this is how this is making me feel. And this is, if we were able to take this action, this would mean a lot to me. Is that something you're open to? I mean, if the dude says no, well, you got to make a decision off that, because you want to respect his freedom. But if he's not willing to sort of step up, yeah, you got to make a decision off of that. And again, check in with yourself. You have to handle a lot of your insecurities as well. You've got to look at his intent. If he's being a truly authentic, loving boyfriend and your shit's still coming up, then a lot of that's work for you to do with a psych or a coach. If he is being inconsiderate, disrespectful, if he's triggering this shit on purpose, then obviously you got to do what you got to do. Let's go to Calvana. Calvana says, I have a friend I met in college. He told me he liked me. I have a friend I met in college. He told me he liked me. I feel the same. But I was shocked, speechless, then soon after he was in a serious relationship and very fast engaged. He still liked me, but he moved. Could be a Romeo, especially if he's getting engaged quickly. Romeos, if you've read my book, Romeos are guys that go in fast, they go in hard, but they kind of like the high of love more than the person. So a lot of Romeos kind of use that dopamine buzz and that validation to distract them from their problems. So they do everything very hard, very fast. Bottom line, dude's married now, so not much you can do about it. Wasn't your person. How to make a guy change his behavior in a relationship. When talking about it and trying to communicate your needs does not help. You cannot change someone. You cannot change someone. The only person you can change is yourself. Right. So you can definitely see, here's the thing. There's two ways to try to change someone fundamentally, right? You can force them or control them or use some kind of manipulation, which is like, hey, you made me feel sad. You shouldn't do that. Hey, it would mean a lot to me if you did this, right? Or, hey, you need to do this for me. All of those, I'm either guilt tripping you or I'm forcing you. Those are all communication means where you're feeling pressured, right? That's way number one. Way number two is you set boundaries for your life, right? Let's put them horizontal. You set boundaries for your life, and the people who want to meet them choose to step up. And the people who don't choose to step out. But people only respect boundaries if the actions follow them. talk about this a lot in my book. People only respect boundaries if the actions follow them. Okay, so if you set a boundary, but a man feels that you're all talk, he feels you won't enforce it, then he won't step up to it. Like there's lots of women that say, I want a guy to call me, but they text all day. Men won't call them. There's lots of women that they say they want a guy to commit, but then they don't, or they accept casual. And that's what they keep getting. So it's when you can set a boundary, and I think this is the piece that gets missed. You can set a boundary without forcing someone to step up to it. Most of us kind of get in this mode where we're like, oh, the only way for me to really set a boundary is to force you to meet it. So if you're my girlfriend, and you say to me, what's an example? You want more present time, right, in the relationship. You're my girlfriend. You want more present time in the relationship. A lot of us think that the only way for you to say that is like to either, well, first of all, to either do nothing or to say it and it be like an ultimatum where, Mark, you have to spend more present time with me. If you don't, then what's the point of being in this relationship? And there's a subtle but very important difference when you do it right, which is, first of all, you share vulnerably how the lack of present time is making you feel. Hey, Mark, can I just be honest with you? I just want to be real with you right now. Yeah, sure, girlfriend. When you're working late hours every day, and when it slips into weekends as well, I feel sad. I feel really disconnected from you. And if I'm being really honest, I perceive, and I know this wasn't your intent, but I perceive that you don't want me. If I'm being really honest, I feel kind of neglected. And, it would mean a lot to me if we could set aside some present time. And I never want to force you to do anything. If you want to work 7 days, I'm not gonna tell you not to, because I'm not here to restrict your freedom. You need to be your man. You need to do what you want to do. And I also want to let you know that, present time is important to me in a relationship. It's helps me feel safe, and it's something I value. And if it's not something that's important to you as well, that's okay. But you need to let me know. Right? Do you see how the guy receives it? He's like, oh, like it's still hit hard, but I'm not saying you have to. I'm literally like, I want you, if you want to work every day, do it. Like I'm never here to restrict your freedom, Mark. But and if that's your decision, like you've got to let me know, because I know what I want and deserve from my life. And if this does mean that we're not compatible, then, or if this does mean that we can't resolve this, then I'd rather know. I don't want to be the woman that's trying to restrict your freedom. There's a big difference there. Pick up on it, right? It's like that difference between the man is choosing now. Right? There's no pressure, and yes, the same consequences might come, but men always need that feeling of freedom, or they're going to resent you for it, because I feel like the freedom is taken away. And this is like chronic across society. So this way, we're the most honest, we get the most honest answers, and you can set the most legitimate boundaries with soft words and hard actions behind them. And that is how you'll make sure that those boundaries get respected, right? Which is so important. You got to get your boundaries respected. Very, very important. My cat's trying to get out of the cage here. I feel a bit bad. Should I let her out? She's supposed to be in for an hour. That's her training. It's your training, Lucy. We'll let you out in a moment. That's a lovely comment, Laurie. Thank you for that. What's this question? Hi, Mark. I love your content, says Lucy Jarrett. Question, can a relationship work after indefinitely? I don't know what that is, Lucy. Trust is everything, says Cindy. Let's go to one of Maddie's questions. We had another one over here. This was a question from Nikki. Nikki Black says, Mark, you're an absolute wonderful gift. Thank you. My question is, how do you know if my best friend, whom I had a steamy fling with for a few months, a few years ago, so she's had a steamy fling with her best friend for a few months, a few years ago, we've known each other for almost 20 years, just likes me a little now and lost interest in most other areas of our friendship. My gut and brain tells me this is the case, but I have a tendency to get stuck in my head and analyze. So not sure if I'm doing that again or things are fine. And I worry I don't have the rest of the question. Damn it. Nikki, it basically sounds like you guys are friends right now. Had a steamy fling a few months ago. Just listen to his actions, Nikki. I know that's cutting it super simple, but if he's coming towards you, if he's enjoying the other aspects with his actions, listen to his actions, whatever they show up. These long-term ones can be a bit weird because people get so, we overthink it and overanalyze them. But at any given time, just listen to the man's actions and you'll get really good answers. How do you communicate a deal breaker without it sounding like an ultimatum? I think demoed that, so let me know, Aneem, if that makes sense. Mark, I miss my friends with benefits. He wanted a relationship, but I didn't. Should I reach out? I mean, why the fuck not? You got nothing to lose. Keisha says, I've been with such an amazing man for years. Congrats, Keisha. That's awesome. I want to get engaged. I can't see me over the comments here. I want to get engaged. We've been together 5 years and it seems like the next step, but do I only want to do that because society says so? Ooh, interesting question. Keisha, I think it's always, if I was working with you on this question, I would say, what need does getting engaged fulfill for you? Right. Sometimes it's really part of our value system versus sometimes we say, getting engaged will give me a sense of security, but I already feel 100% secure. So actually, yeah, I don't need that. So I'd just be checking in on your own value system and saying, hey, if I have that, what need will it meet? If I don't have that, what will I be lacking? Right. And it's totally up to you, the meaning you make of it. Just logged in. Hey, Barbara, great to see you from Vancouver, Canada. Question from Chris. I'm 40 years old, never engaged, nor married, no kids, and single 2 years. Why do men think that I'm a walking red flag, and how do I make them understand that it was a choice? Yeah, it's interesting. I sometimes I often coach with women where they get a man in a similar scenario. And you basically got to check in on, you've got to have a good story as to why that was. So if a client of mine was dating a guy and he showed up, he says 40, never married, single, no kids, long-term single. One of the first questions I ask a client is, has he had longer relationships in the past? Because humans are designed to relate. Humans are designed to connect. So if a man, for example, has managed to live his whole life up to 50 years of age with no more than 18 months with someone, that tells me clearly his attachment style leans out, right? It leans avoidant. So in most cases, that's a problem. If you want to be the exception, you need to tell a story, a true story, as to why you're the exception. So for example, if a client has a guy like this, I'll have her ask, curious, why do you think that is? And just listen to his answer. And there's a big difference between the answer of, I don't know, I just haven't met the right woman, I guess. Right, that shows no awareness. That just shows a lot of avoidant pattern, which is like, nah, ruling out. Whereas if he says, yeah, that's a great question. Do you really want me to be honest? Client says yes. He says, yeah, growing up, I had a ton of social anxiety. So up until sort of my mid-20s, I pretty much stayed away from most people. And if I'm really being honest, I had a lot of struggles with my dad when I was younger. And that just kind of led me to lean away from relationship. And so I learned a lot about that, especially moving into my early 30s, which was I had a lot of fears around, I wouldn't be accepted. I wouldn't be liked. I wouldn't be loved. I'd lose my independence going into a relationship. So after all of that, I basically got scared and I went into my career from 32 to 40 and just kind of focused entirely on that. And then I realized that, hey, I'm actually putting relationship aside. I'm telling myself that I can just be independent when that doesn't make any sense. Like, what human is truly independent? None of us are truly independent. So, at 40 years of age, I woke up and I realized that, hey, I do need people. I do want connection in my life. What have I been doing this whole time? I've been acting out of fear. And so that was when I went out and I really opened my heart. And, that was the relationship I had when I was 40. And I was with her a year and a half. And even though it didn't work, I learned so much from it. And all the learnings I think from that are why, this is really the time in my life where I've learned I need connection. I've learned I need to lean into my fear around my independence. And now I can go ahead into relationship and find someone really good for me and lean into that with them. Right? Do you see the difference between, oh, I don't know, I just haven't met the right woman, and that? So the story has to make sense to the receiver, which is, well, why is this different, right? If someone's chosen independence the whole time, why are they not going to choose independence again? Hope that makes sense. Cindy says, thank you for all your great, helpful, easy to understand. Hey, it's 23 minutes till our first guests arrive. For those of you just joining, Jamia was supposed to be with us, but she followed the rule of law and followed the lockdown. Maddie was the patriot of the channel. God bless him. He's now in jail for trying to get here. We will bail him out shortly after the live stream. Don't worry. I've set funds aside just in case this happened. But he was supposed to be here, and he's not here with us. Hence, I'm in my little home studio instead of the nice big one out there. But you're all here with me, so salute to Maddie. Maybe we'll get him on Ask Mark 101, hey? Hello from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Gee whiz, I was coaching a client recently from Saudi Arabia. If you are a Western woman and you think Tinder is bad, try being on Tinder in Saudi Arabia. It is 100 times worse. Literally, 1 in 10 guys has a photo. 1 in 10. Whew. Lucy says, love your content. Can a relationship work after infidelity? Short answer, yes, but it's very challenging. Infidelity is kind of I wonder if I can share screen here. No, probably not. If you imagine, a line that's sort of, let's see if I can draw this. Start over this side. Infidelity is the end of a big problem. So there's a problem in a relationship that starts, say, up here, and then infidelity goes bang down here, right? So a level of honesty and intimacy went very wrong, kind of up. I can't do this. A level of intimacy went very wrong up here. So infidelity just says, especially infidelity, obviously in a monogamous relationship, says that something went wrong a while ago and that this is the final result of that problem being ignored. A lack of honesty in some way. And I'm not talking about lying about the cheating. I'm talking about lying about needs and vulnerabilities. The natural lying that so many of us fall into when we get scared. Going to do a really cool video on that soon. But anyway, so because infidelity is the final presentation of the problem, if a couple wants to work on it, and it will take time and it will take a lot of healing, and it will take the partner who has cheated showing that they understand the hurt and the pain that they have caused in the cheated on partner. If they can do all of that, and the cheated on partner genuinely feels that the cheater understands the pain they have caused, and then the couple can work back to that original spot and bring a radical new level of honesty to the relationship, you guys can have the potential to start a new relationship with very different rules, a new level of trust. Basically, things were very broken, but it was the infidelity that finally showed it up. So there are some couples where after the person who's been cheated on has felt truly listened to and has felt truly, the other person truly understands and feels into with them the trauma that's been caused, sometimes a new relationship can be started. Esther Perel talks a lot about that. If you want to hear an example, pick up a book, Mating in Captivity. But probably the other one actually is, I always forget the name of this book. It's got a purple cover. Dr. Sue Johnson wrote it. Who knows what I'm talking about? Why do I always forget the name of this book? I'll think of it in a little bit. But basically, you have to heal the trauma, which is a big job, and then you got to go find the problem that caused it all, which is also a big job. So altogether, it's a really big job, but it can happen. How do you send questions? You just post them in the chat, actually. Where did oh no, I've lost my track here. Oh my gosh, you guys have left so many questions. Thank you for leaving them. This is beautiful. I'm trying to find where I was up to. Much love from Amsterdam. When do you move? Yeah, I'm moving to the States. My flight is in 1 week. I fly to Sydney. In 8 days, I fly to LA. Flying into a raging pandemic. How about that? From a country with basically none. What am I doing? Bella Mum says, my partner hates text messages. He can't even write and send them. If he needs to send a text, he'll get his adult sons to do it for him. It's one of those examples where just your relationship has to be built on non-text. And go figure, 30 years ago, that's all we had. And a lot of relationships were pretty good back then. So it's definitely doable. Let's go with, what's this? Dating a guy for almost 6 months. His friends call me his girlfriend, but he's worried about making it official because he's leaving to travel in a year and knows he'll be back. Is it worth it to keep dating? Oh, 6 months, that's a long time. And he's not traveling for another year. Yeah, I think you probably got to put this guy to the sword a little more, just in that, hey, if you're not serious about this, you need to let me know, right? And currently the situation that's being accepted is, and again, this isn't one where you want him to be like, okay, I'll call you my girlfriend. And then he's like, a year from now, he's like, well, I told you a year ago I was going away. Like, no, you've got to really call out that dishonesty and be like, no, I don't want you to call me your girlfriend unless it's something you really want to do. Like, this has to be something you choose. I don't want you to do this. If is this something you want to choose? Because if it's not, that's 18 months you've been together, and then a year you're going to be apart. I mean, I've done a year-long distance, so it's very doable, right? But maybe if he's really honest, he wants to have adventures on the year away. A lot of guys want that, but they struggle to be honest about it. So that might be some of the honesty that you've got to pull from him. You know, like, yeah, be super honest with me. Like, is adventuring, is having your freedom during your year away important to you? Would you like to experiment while you're away? And this is like hard honesty for a guy, right? You'll have to almost tease it out of him. But if he's really honest, you'll probably get answers to make a good decision here and be able to either, hey, yep, I've got a man who's voluntarily committing, and then we're going to do a year-long distance, or no, this guy actually values freedom. This guy's got shit to work through. So having boundaries around this, I think, and not just letting it continue on exactly where it's at, will give him the opportunity to either step up as a man and be your man, or be really honest with himself and, go after what he wants, which might be freedom in this case. How to solve a conflict between C. Rania, I love you, but I don't know what you're talking about. Hi, Mark. I love that you spent. Oh, thank you. My pleasure, Haley. That's lovely. Thanks, Mark. I like your response. My question. Good vibes. Pleasure, Queen of Swords. My pleasure. 16 minutes. We're going to have a special guest joining us. You can ask her some questions as well. It's actually not Helena. Everyone's probably thinking it's Helena. Another coach I work with. We got another hour and a quarter here. We got some cool coaches coming in today, so this is very cool. Ask Mark 100. Hello, Mark. Suggestion on opening up to someone intimately for the first time after being sexually abused in the past. Gee whiz. Yeah, I've got a couple of clients I work through this with, and I'm not sure I can do this question justice in a couple of minutes, but we'll see how we go. Sometimes depending on the trauma and what you've gone through, sometimes you'll need to do work with a therapist or a coach or someone to release some of that first, because it can just, your unconscious mind buries trauma and it just puts it in a box. But it's almost like it's a box called sexuality, and it's almost like a suburb. And it's like your unconscious mind will kind of cordon off the suburb because bad things happened there last time. So we need to get access to the suburb again without the police blocking it off in your unconscious mind. So sometimes we need to reconnect with our unconscious mind and have it trust us again, not to put us in the same situation. Because if your unconscious doesn't trust you, it'll take the wheel and take over for you, which is it sees you driving to sexuality and it's like, no, thank you. I let you go there once and that didn't work. So I'm going to protect you from this trauma, and it'll give you a charge, lots of anxiety, and you'll run away. So sometimes there's deeper work that needs to be done around this. In terms of the specific guy, though, number one, really trusting your intuition, like feeling, is this a safe person? Is this a safe guy? And if there's any doubt at all, obviously not being alone with him, etc. And then number two, sometimes using the opportunity to, with a guy that goes slower, obviously just share that with him, right? Just be like, hey, this might be like, I don't know, the second, third date or something, a time where things are a little more comfortable. Like, I'm picturing, the sun's setting and you're on you're sitting looking at the river and it's like a third date. This isn't like first date where playing frisbee you bring this up. This is like a lower energy time. When the guy's feeling really good and really safe, you're like, hey, there's something, maybe he says, oh, we can come back and watch a movie. That would be an opportunity to be like, look, I'd love that. And you feel really safe. And one thing you should probably know about me is like, I need things to go really slow. I had someone not fully respect my consent in the past. And so just FYI, if we like go back to yours, like it's probably not going to be happening. I need to feel like really safe with someone. And that way he's kind of put on notice. And if he's like, yeah, totally cool. And you really got to read his reaction. If he's like, yeah, of course, like we can just stay out here if you want. If he's super chill, that's like a good feather in the cap that he's safe. If he gets weird, then you got your information earlier. So yeah, I would share it in that way, in one of those like nice calmer moments. Great question. Thank you for sharing that. Sexy Cindy, also say to him, it means a lot to you to hear his voice rather than text message. Receiving and responding. Two of the best things you can do as a woman. Receive a man and respond with your energy. Men, we're here to please you. So receive and respond. Hi, Mark. You're a new find of mine. Thanks, MS Jones. Great to have you here. I don't really have dating relationship issues, but rather love learning about people and relationships. I love your content and passion. Mwah. Thank you, Miss Jones. Appreciate that very much. Cindy says, someone once told me if a man is too jealous of people you look at and talk and watches every move, he has no trust. He has no trust in you. Yeah, I've been around some of these guys and they don't give me good vibes. When they're really sort of possessive, it's very easy to have your boundaries stepped over. And sometimes these guys can feel very safe, but you end up playing a sort of an almost 1950s subservient role where almost the man ends up controlling you. So you can get in situations where it's very hard to like protect your own freedom with some of these guys, where you just end up, you end up in the good vibes with him, and then he's like, oh, you don't really like need those guys. You got me, baby. And then even if you try to see your male friends, he sort of like death stares them. It just gets uncomfortable. So you're like, fuck it, it's too much trouble. I'll stop seeing my guy friends. And then it's sort of a slippery slope into controlling loss of boundaries. Bethany says, hey, Mark, I've liked this guy for 2 years. And even though he told me he sees me as family, before the nationwide lockdown, he was giving me mixed messages. Part 2 to my question below. I've liked this guy for 2 years, even though he told me he sees me as family. Haven't seen him in a year now, but I always start the text messages. As much as I stop trying to like him, I can't. What should I do? Beverly, you're stuck in the fantasy of this guy. So often we get in fantasies where when something's not being met, especially when we don't know how to find that need in a healthy way, like, for example, the need for connection or safety, or what else do we get out of fantasies? We get like, oh, I feel wanted and I feel accepted and seen and understood. We get all these like great feelings, right, that all of us need. But if we've had experiences in the past where we thought we had that like in person, and then we felt seen and understood in person, and then like that person rejected us and he's like, no, it's over. And you're like, fuck. That trauma prevents us wanting to do it again in close proximity, in intimacy, right? So we pull away from intimacy and think, oh no, intimacy sucks. I don't want to do that. But then our brain kicks back in. It's like, hey, I still want to feel understood. I still want to feel needed. I still want to feel seen. I still want to feel whatever, desired, etc. So it finds a safer way to meet the needs, which is like, we can just fantasize about this guy that we'll never be with, and this kind of meets the needs. It's like, it sounds bad to say it this way, but it's kind of like a cheaper way to meet those needs through fantasy than actually risking the real life version where there's been trauma. So you've got to clear the trauma from the real life version and lean into fear to truly get you out of that. Because otherwise your brain's like a radar scanner. If you're not actively helping it find those needs, feel understood, feel seen, etc., it'll just find them from whatever fucking source it comes across, which in this case is like a guy you haven't seen in a year. Hope that makes sense. Hello, Mark. Love your content, says Farah. I don't have a specific problem, but what if he loves me and it's obvious but won't admit? This is an interesting one. It honestly, if you're building intimacy through honesty and through connection, it should come out eventually. And I think sometimes we put a little bit too much focus on words. And it's a very different thing if a guy is sort of being avoidant and a bit shifty and moving away versus if he's totally there, he's showing up 100%. He's showing up with his body, he's showing up with his actions, he's showing up with most of his words. You're integrated into his family. Sometimes men need to work through the verbals because in the past, we've either not been rewarded for using verbals or we've got our own trauma around it. So if the guy is doing everything else right, and you can hold a safe enough space for him to open up, my experience is eventually the words will come. I had a client where this happened. She was one of my younger clients, and she's like, I really just want him to say I love you. I just want to hear those words. And she was like pinning like a significant portion of her feeling of loved and getting away from a fear of abandonment on the words. And so I sort of said to her, balance it out, appreciate everything else that he's doing, use your intuition. Is this a loyal guy? And make him feel safe. And it took about 3 months, but eventually he said it and she was like over the moon. But she had to kind of let it go a little bit in the short term and use a multitude of factors to get her security from, rather than just like, I need to hear the words to feel secure. Because there are other means of communications. And sometimes the guy takes a little bit of time just to get to that. So it comes, I think, and if it's ever those other factors, if you can't trust those other factors, words aren't going to save you. So if his communication shit, if he's not showing up, sort that stuff out and why that's not going well, rather than just going, oh, screw all this. If he just says he loves me, then that'll be enough. Bring that stuff back into focus would be my advice. Who else we got? What have we got here? Let me know if you got questions. We got 6 minutes, and we got a special guest joining us. 6 minutes. Haley says, my ex doesn't follow me, but watches my stories daily on Instagram. We've split for almost a year, and he's been watching them since summer. I would like to reconnect, but my worth tells me it's his move. This is a bit of an annoying one. Guys will sometimes just watch stuff because, again, it's them doing the thing I said before where they're like, oh, I can just sit at a safe distance away from intimacy and enjoy it here. And as soon as you give them the opportunity to get close, they'll be like, no, I'm good viewing things from a distance. The thing that pisses you off most, though, is you're thinking about them all the time while they're watching your stories. And this is that annoying tethering behavior. And they might send you silly memes, or they might just send you a little like one-word text, but their tethering behavior means that they are constantly on your mind. So your brain gets filled up with someone who actually just wants to stand all the way back here. So sometimes you've got to put boundaries around this stuff. Look, you can float him a text and just say, hey, how you been? You could even go, hey, it'd be, good to have a chat, hear how you've been. And then just sort of give one little opening, see if he bites, and then let him roll it from there. You can do that. But if he doesn't, I would just cut him off, because he fills up your brain and he's not going to do anything about it. He just wants to sit and be distant. How to be stronger in a relationship when the economic situation for both is hard and the future of the relationship is not clear for both because of the situation. Yeah, you got to have some tough conversations about where the relationship is going. I mean, your relationship is as good as the greatest struggle you've overcome together. Right, I'll say that again. Your relationship is going to be as strong as the most difficult struggle you've successfully overcome together. So I'm very grateful for my beautiful partner, and I'm also grateful for the fact that we've now done a year long distance. That's probably the greatest struggle we've overcome together. So do you think when we go on holidays next time, or if one of us needs to go back and see the family, we're going to feel pretty trusting, pretty good about that? Fair to say that, right? So if you can overcome this struggle together, it's like a feather in your cap. And it might take both of you sharing your fears. It might take both of you being really vulnerable. There's a real opportunity to come together here and build something. But stress and difficult situations are also what can break you apart. So it's do or die time for you. It's like boom or bust. It's either going to get better or it's gonna finish. There's an opportunity for you guys to either grow together or to say, hey, you know what, this is too stressful. Our bond wasn't actually strong enough. But this is the juice. This is where you have the opportunity to really go deeper with someone. So yeah, good luck with it, SMH. Beverly says we've got 4 minutes to our next guests. Well, to our first guest arrives. Star, thank you for the beautiful questions. There's a lot here, so I'm going to try to get through as many as I can for you. Star says, hey, do you have suggestions for the best way to find a love connection, new online, with someone in a different state? As in you're intentionally wanting to date someone in a different state? Don't intentionally try to date someone in a different state because you're just creating problems you might not need. But voicemails, phone calls, your video calls, and looking at both of yours commitment to it with your actions, you got to use your intuition, right? Is this someone who's showing up for me and wants to work for this? Or is this someone who, he's just enjoying a pen pal? You will get a lot more avoidant leaning men when you do long distance dating. So you've got to be really switched on and really listening for that avoidance and that person who's going to lean out whenever they get scared. Because you can't build a relationship based on that. All right. Who else has a question here? I love Howard Stern says, let the cat out. We want to see her. So the cat is currently in the cage, not because I'm a cruel person, but because we're flying soon. I'm moving to the States. So I'm trying to crate train her, and she's calmed down a little bit. She looks all right in there. You all right, Liz? I think she's good. She's all right. She's got to get used to it a little bit. Poor thing has 2 flights to take. In the early stages of dating, how do we bring up deal breakers like religion or politics? To some, it's not a deal breaker, but what if the person's made up their mind about a deal breaker like religion? Just talk about what's important to you. It'll come up pretty easily. You can thread it in from any conversation, but this is like something that's important to me. One thing for my future is I really value Muslim. I'm practicing Muslim. And that was like something that here's why I learned it and here's why it's important to me. And that's going to be something that I know is in my future. And just drop that there and just let it sit. And you'll pretty quickly be able to tell from someone's reaction how they receive that. You can also ask them, like, do you practice a religion? Like, what's your sort of vision for that side of your life? And just be really curious about humans. I think if you really come from a curious place and you're actually interested, you're not sitting there list ticking, but you're actually like, here's another human being. I wonder why religion is or isn't important to them. What can I learn about this person? If you do that, you should be able to get all the information you need. Let her out. We want to see the cat. How to move forward with a new possible relationship when he says he has crippling depression. Oh, Mara, this is a challenging one. Look, I see a lot of women get burned by this, if I'm being really honest. You can't do it for him, right? There's a lot of rescuer types who end up in these situations looking to get their own self-worth from like, oh, I can, make him love me, or I can be the one who like changes him, and he has to change himself. So that's really what it comes down to. Sometimes you can hold space for that, but you don't want to end up doing all the work for dating yourself. Otherwise, you're going to be depressed as well. So you got to let him handle his stuff. Bonnie says, oh, hey, Mark. Hello, Bonnie. Great to see you on here. SMH says, thank you so much. I think she meant if the relationship can work after infidelity. Right, we did answer that question. Hey, let's get our first guest on here today. Now, I got to send her the link. So I think when she's here, she has arrived with us. So I'm going to see if I can bring her on now, if this works. Here we go. All right, let's try this. Introducing the amazing, the wonderful Anya Grace. Anya Grace is a women's, if you don't know Anya Grace is a women's empowerment and feminine energy coach. And she actually comes into my programs and works with my clients to empower them in the feminine energy side of the piece. So it's all about embodying the different archetypes of feminine energy. The goddess, the seductress is all about sex. The maiden, all about vulnerability. The princess, all about presence and play. Anya, Fantastic to have you on the channel today.
Hi, Mark. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to
Thank you.
be here.
Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. I've been listening to parts of the conversation, and it's so good. So.
Good. Anya, I'd love to hear from you to share with the viewers. What's the main sort of things that you do, or things even that you deal with, things you help women with as a feminine energy coach?
Yeah. So I'm sure everyone here has likely heard of the terms, or just really had the experience of struggling to get out of their masculine energy, because our culture is so wired to, bring us into that space. So a lot of what we do, and what Mark and I do together in his programs, is support everyone to just learn these different practices to quickly shift out of their masculine energy. But I would say the main thing that is effective in doing this is realizing that feminine energy isn't something that we can really understand in the mind. It's something that is felt and experienced in the body. And that's the big difference between, really understanding the concept of what it means to truly be in your feminine power. Is, can you actually have that energy resonating through your body on a date, or with your kids, or with your partner while you're intimate? So, it's really about awakening these energies in every cell of your body, because it's something that we can do. So.
And you might be wondering, or you watching might be wondering, why is this important? And Anya, what's been your experience in terms of attraction and dating and just a woman being happy? Why is feminine energy important?
Yeah, why is feminine energy important? I think the best way to answer that question is, feminine energy is part of our authentic truth as women. And if you have ever felt like something's missing, or something's not quite right in your life, or you're not fully stepping into that potential that is there, it's possible that it's that gap between really embodying that feminine energy and feminine power. And, it's important. Probably one of the most important things that we can do in our lives is to live authentically and truthfully. And this is in our romantic relationships and our friendships and every relationship. And one thing that I've been thinking a lot about recently is, like, in love, for example, if we're not willing to be completely transparent and truthful, the relationship that we're in is false on some level. And so it's really, the power of orienting to, whatever is meant to happen will happen, but my job is to connect to my truth and authenticity. And then whether this person is meant to go or stay will happen. But all I need to do is continue to, root back to my truth. And that part of that is awakening this feminine power. I hear a lot of women feel like they're almost like afraid that it's something that they can't access. And that's something that you can totally let go of. It's absolutely available and accessible to make that transformation.
And we do live in such a masculine culture where we become habitually in our planning minds, in our sort of structured minds. And I think just from a man's point of view, being able to go on a date, with a woman who's in her feminine, who sort of takes me out of the heaviness of the masculine energy. There's just no supplement for that. Bro Steve is just never going to provide that. He's never going to move or touch me or bring any of that energy in any significant way to my life the way a woman can, the way my partner can. So it's such an important energy, I think, even just for attraction, for connection, and even for respect, that sort of being able to be that queen. It's such an important piece that we work on. Let's go to some questions, Anya. Yeah. Happy to go to some questions. If you have questions for Anya, pop them in the chat. I would love to hear them. Let's have a look. You've left so many questions. Thank you for leaving the questions. Let's see. Now, Anya specializes in feminine energy, so I don't know if I'm throwing her in the deep end here by bringing dating questions in. Okay. But let's do it anyway. Let's just see what happens. Anya, did you hear what happened to poor Maddie?
No, I vaguely heard it, but I was like, what's happening?
He was supposed to be here with us. and he didn't make it. So the police got to him first, and now we have to bail him out after this live stream.
Oh my God. Like, actually?
I believe so. So
Oh.
we're going to handle that after the live stream. He wanted to be here with us. He's here in spirit. We all miss him very much. He's basically the reason my channel looks good. So we're very appreciative of Maddie. Greeting from the Philippines. I want to know if the guy's showing interest for me and then suddenly became silent. I want to know if the guy's showing a lot of interest for me and then suddenly became silent. He pulls away, is sometimes ghosting me. I act very confused. I'm not surprised. Yeah, I mean, if I'm from the Philippines, I want to know if the guy's showing some interest. Look, men will do this, unfortunately. And to be fair, women do this too. I mean, this isn't really a gender thing. Look, it happens. You got to adapt. It's part of building dating resilience. It's just someone showing up the way that they can, which unfortunately is eventually not at all. I've been ghosted. You'll get ghosted. We've all had it happen. Anya, you've been ghosted at some point, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. We've all experienced it. Do you want to add anything to this, Anya?
Just that masculine energy is in its highest conscious, clear, and concise, and it takes away confusion. So you create that. You can create that and call that in your life, you know, and if it's not present, it doesn't mean that you need to shame or make that person wrong. That's not you being in your vulnerable power. But you could just be aware of the way you're feeling, you know, and if you're not feeling good in the presence of that masculine energy, then that's just something to notice.
So if masculine energy isn't giving you more clarity, then it's maybe not the right masculine energy for you. Yeah. Awesome. Sabine says he's lonely and has good sounds like, that's a response to a different question. Let's go to a new one. I've been single for 2 years, working on myself and learning to set boundaries and learn to trust my gut. Boom. Every time I have someone interested in me, I find out the hard way they are bad boys. The elusive bad boy. Have you dated a bad boy or two in your time, Anya?
Yes, I am.
Oh, yeah. I actually have a shirt. Hang on. Let me see if I can get it. Let me see if I can get a shirt here. Here we go. Look at this. Look at this. I even have the shirt.
Oh my God.
Hey, I got the bad boy shirt.
That's so good.
Little plug from my old job there. But in all seriousness, I often work with women who are very attracted to the bad boys. And one of the issues is the bad boys, they can be the more distant leaning, more challenging types. And a lot of that can obviously be very attractive, but it can also be playing out a pattern again from childhood, which can be, hey, I want to win the game. With the bad boy, I get a chance to try to win the game that I didn't finish winning in, like a game of Scrabble that you didn't finish. You're like, I'm going to go back to this shit 30 years later and try to win again. Some of that can be around bad boy. And also bad boys obviously can be just so damn attractive, like dopamine, feels good to be around him, that we forget to set good boundaries with them and we hold them to a little bit looser standards, which actually means that they end up losing respect for us and we end up getting used, or they end up dating 3 women. We're like, oh, that's fine. He's just doesn't know what he's doing. I'm sure he's going to come through. Anya, what do you say to your clients who are hooked on the bad boy?
Hooked on bad boys. Well, I heard you say earlier, like, we can't change anyone, and that's always important to remember. And I also believe that as women, we have the power to activate people. And we have the power to activate people to experience things they've never experienced. And this is not a manipulative thing. It's just a byproduct of when we are truly in our power. Sometimes we can shock people and we can, we do have this power when we have certain energies turned on in our body, in our energy field, literally. It can actually have a major effect on men, even the most non-vulnerable bad boy types, that really remembering that underneath that bad boy energy is deep vulnerability. And that, let's say you really do fall in love with someone and you want the best chance with them, but maybe they have some of these patterns. My suggestion would be, if you want the best chance, would be to really, really work on connecting to your power, to your inner divine feminine power, which is a silent, sometimes poise, inner grace, inner dignity and self-honor, a vulnerability, a willingness to be transparent and truthful. And if you step into the world with these energies, often they're so rare these days in the feminine that when you bring these energies forward in your love relationships and just in the world altogether, sometimes it can really it can shake things up, So it's not doing it from the position of I want to have an outcome here, or I'm going to try to manipulate this person to make me feel a certain way. But it's like, okay, what's really meant to happen? Let me just toss it to the universe and know that if I show up in my authenticity, and really every single woman that's here, every single one of us in our authentic truth, we are very powerful and we are empowered and confident. That's our authentic truth. So let me work on showing up in my authentic truth and then see what happens. Does this relationship dissolve, or does this person, transform and want to go forward with me? And maybe he experiences things he's never experienced in relationship. And that's also possible.
Yeah, I like that you made that point about authentic truth. And I think all of us, myself included, we all say, oh, I'm the most authentic person I know, or I want to be as authentic as possible. But I know for me that something in my own coaching journey has been learning to be even more authentic the whole time. And it's actually something that it's not like automatic. We become so trained to block energies, to block thoughts, to block our wants and needs, especially those of you, hands up in the chat if you're sort of the more independent type. You kind of lean independent, you do things on your own, you're pretty good at being your own woman. If you're like that, I can kind of resonate with you. I'm a bit the same. So those of us who are independent types actually learn to shut down a lot of those needs and wants. And so you can get in a situation where, for me, it could be with the bad girl, or the really, I like the high school image bad girl, or for you, it could be the bad boy. And so we get into these situations and we just get so damn high on the fact that we're with this really attractive person. We forget to express our own sort of wants, our vulnerabilities. We just end up being cool and just chill and thinking, oh, this person looks really great on my arm and they feel really good, so I'll just go along with it. And our authenticity by accident starts to drop away, just little by little, or we don't have it in the first place. So yeah, for me, it's definitely an element of vulnerability for a guy as well to express these wants and needs. And yeah, it means you can be rejected for them, right? And this is where often you end up having to make a choice, which is, do I sort of truly express myself here with this freaking beautiful person that I'm with, very attractive, buzzy person? Do I truly express myself? Oh, but I don't want to lose them. Oh, I got to play it right. I really want to keep this relationship because it looks great on my Instagram. My friends are going to think I'm amazing. And that authenticity just ends up dripping away little bit by little bit until pretty soon you've lost half of yourself and you're like, how the fuck did that happen? Where did me go? Why did my own wants and needs get abandoned? So yeah, that's a very powerful point, Anya. Let's go in. I'm worried. KKM says, I'm worried that I never go to see my long distance relationship boyfriend. I'm worried that I never go to see him. I don't have work experience from Canada. I don't have work experience from Canada wanting to go to the USA. Worried that I never go to see my... I'm not sure what's going on here. Anya, do you have any ideas?
Sounds like you haven't. It's more of like an interweb relationship. Like
right. Right. Okay, that's what's happening. Okay. I mean, honestly, if you don't have plans to meet, and if you can't trust that, it's a bit brutal. But it's kind of, what sort of relationship do you really have? Yeah, as Anya says, you have an interwebs relationship, which is nice, but it's not very real in terms of relating to the real human. If you're not like getting there to see each other, what have you got? You got to ask yourself this. Thoughts, Anya?
Yeah. If it's not really what you want, what are you secretly getting out of it? What are the secret benefits that you're maybe not admitting to yourself?
Yes, we never do anything without a reason. We never do anything without a reason. This is a lovely comment. Hiyane says, I absolutely love your work. It's been really helpful. Thank you, Hiyane. I've been quantum dating for a year now. However, I'm about to move to another city for work. Question, should dating wait till I've moved? Anya, I don't even know what quantum dating is. What the hell is quantum dating?
Either. Sounds cool.
Oh, God. Dating coaches are behind on the terms. Let's Google it. Quantum dating was an extreme You know when Wikipedia uses was, you're like, oh, that person died. Like, they've used was here. Quantum dating was an extremely precise method of measuring a particle's date of origin, unlike carbon dating, which usually requires a substance to object its age. Quantum dating was able to identify an accurate date of origin, even if the substance had traveled through time. Wow, that got off course. Okay. Quantum dating, what the hell? In the chat, here we go, Urban Dictionary. In the chat, if you know. The act of dating and not dating someone at the same time. That doesn't explain anything. In romantic terms, the practice which constitutes the smallest possible amount of dating which can still be considered dating. Right. Okay, that's still a little weird for me, but sure. So you're going on like one date a month, I guess. Right, okay. For you now, I'm about to move to another city for work. Question, should I wait till I've moved? Hey, that's totally up to you. If you consider yourself pretty good at dating, you're like, hey, I can spot men, I'm feeling good, I just want to take some time to focus on myself, by all means, wait. I have a lot of clients where we go a bit the other way, which is you haven't dated for a while, there's some skills we want to learn, we want some old patterns over here that we got to break. Hey, every time you take this personally and dating's not about you, hey, in the past, you've been a massive caregiver and you haven't had any receiving. So we got to get your receiving muscle up. Hey, in the past, you've made dates super serious. We need to have some freaking fun on dates. In those type of scenarios, get out there. Like, get on dates. You know, a lot of people sort of think that dating and relationships is like the only area where I can just invest no time and get amazing results. And I just don't think that's true. I think any area of life, you've got to invest time to get results. And that includes dating and relationships. And that's why, you know, for myself, I still have a relationship coach. Me and my partner also have a relationship coach. You know, you got to invest time in these things to reap the rewards. So unless you're an awesome dater, why not invest some time? Spend 40 hours a week at work. Why not spend a few hours a week dating? That's my thoughts. What do you think, Anya?
Well, one thing that's coming to me that's kind of fun is recognizing that the word dating can sort of come with a lot of different, come with baggage on its own, that we can have these associations when we think of dating. And I would just, when you hear the word date or going on a date or dating, what do you feel initially in your body? Like, do you have a queasy feeling or a tight, anxious feeling? And and look at that relationship, because maybe for you, you change the language just a little bit and call it something entirely different and drop all the old past experiences that don't feel fun and good to you, and decide that you're going to go and do something else, like just get to know people, you know, or who knows, just like have experiences in the world. And you still could be dating, but it's funny how those little things that we can shift like that can actually make a big difference in our experience, because it sort of takes the pressure off and, you know, changes our entire vibe toward that topic. So that's, I mean, maybe quantum dating is taking up the meaning of it. I don't know, but that.
I love that we got onto something to do with dinosaurs after quantum dating.
Wow.
I just want to add to that. Online dating, not a thing. Right? With your linguistics, think of online dating as online meeting, because that's all it is. It's a meeting service. You don't do any dating online. So henceforth, in your brain, Mark told you to translate online dating to online meeting. It's a meeting service. Tinder is a meeting service. Bumble is a meeting service. Match is a meeting service. They're all just meeting services. You're not doing any dating till you're at very least talking to someone on the phone. At the very least.
That's so good.
Good little reframe there.
Yeah.
Esther says, hi, Mark. I'm not too fond of online meeting, but my friend is encouraging me to do it. Do you think they're safe enough? Absolutely, I do. I'm a big fan of it. Online meeting, I think, sometimes it does work best for the people that need it the least, but it's absolutely a skill that anyone can learn. And by putting across a good vibe, by trusting your intuition, it can even be a good training ground for where your triggers are at, because sometimes online meeting doesn't work so well if you've had bad dating experiences in the past. But if you're the type that, say, has a lot of fears around rejection or takes on other people's opinions a lot more than perhaps what you could or should, then online meeting gives you an opportunity to practice that, right? Because like 9 out of 10 people you meet online are just like, it won't go anywhere. And that's okay. One thing I talk about in my book is that, online, we have like an astronomical advantage over our grandparents in that we can meet hundreds of people in a single day without even putting on pants. Right? Like we can sit there and like, isn't that amazing? But an artist can't paint 100 times as many paintings and still have the same quality if he only has the same amount of time. So the average quality of connection is going to drop because we have such a vast range, and our brains aren't really used to that. But that average drop in connection is okay. That's normal. But a lot of us aren't. We take it personally, and I know I did this at the start as well. So there's a real opportunity in online meeting to like learn some social skills, just not take other people's opinions on board, understand that there's randoms out there that hide behind phones and do weird shit in their own fear, and that's all okay. None of it's a reflection on you. So I love online meeting for that reason. I think it can grow you, and I also think it's a great meeting service. What are your thoughts, Anya?
I love that. My experience with online dating, I probably did it for like 2 years. I didn't meet my partner online dating, but I remember my experience with it was that when I took a break and I would get off of it for a little while and completely like delete it and then just focus on other things in my life, not be open to dating, but just take a break from the online meeting part of it, that when I came back, I would almost attract an entirely new caliber because I was at a different place. And that I just noticed that, and I thought it was so interesting.
I've had clients say the same thing. It's like they do it, take a little break, new caliber. They do it, take a little break, new caliber. When your energy gets in a really good place, you'll just know there's something about it. It's just men know where you're at, and good men can sense when you're in a good place and when you're feeling confident within yourself, not taking shit personally. And unfortunately, the men who aren't as respectful can sense when they almost like fish you out if you're not in a good place. So it's a good opportunity to practice those patterns. We've got a few more minutes with Anya before we go, and then a next very special guest is going to arrive. So Anya, I'm curious about this one. What do you think? Hey, Mark, what do you think of the law of attraction in relation? Anya, what do you think?
The law of attraction. The law of attraction. I had a really huge realization around the law of attraction recently. Let me see if it comes to me really quick. Well, it's a thing that can get us in our heads. That's one thing. And
interesting. Yeah.
The concept of it is something that can really get us in our heads, and we can think we're doing it right or think we're doing it wrong and put a lot of pressure on ourselves, which goes against the law of attraction and actually really works against it. So I have personally in my life just sort of let it go completely and know that and rather than pursue like the law of attraction, working with that effectively, just orient toward my favorite words for this are authenticity, alignment, truth, transparency, honesty, all these things that again bring us to when really the most attractive you are. And this isn't, it's like, yes, it's to every single human in the world kind of thing, but it's also to the human that you are really meant to be with, the human that resonates with your soul, not this version of yourself or this fake expression.
The idea.
Yeah. It's the most attractive you can be. It's like, okay, ask yourself, do I want to be attractive or do I want to attract the relationship that is really meant for me? And it's like you can waste so much time and honestly drain so much of your feminine energy and Shakti force and sexual energy by not being in your truth, because you're attracting men, and yes, you're having experiences, but there's also a fast track in my opinion, and that is continuing to just even set the intention to I commit to being in my truth as much as I can. I commit to, that life, because that's everything else, everything that I track that's not coming from that place is ultimately going to fall. I mean, it just is, because our higher self doesn't let us off the hook. So I prefer to just guide people more into their alignment, and trust that the law of attraction works so well when we are in that alignment.
In that alignment. I heard a great saying lately, which is there's 2 ways to use dating advice. Number 1 is to become your best self so that you filter in the right people. Number 2 is to use it to manipulate or shift the people you want into liking you. It's amazing how often a lot of coaches will fall into that second category. And I'll get clients who come to me and say, hey, I want this specific guy. I'm like, cool, let's get you in your best self. And then we do that. And he's like, this specific guy still isn't moving towards me. And it's like they're trying to force someone who's not putting in any effort, because they got this story that if I get him, I'll get X need met, I'll get Y need met. But a lot of it, they're playing out their old stuff. And I'm like, I can't continue to coach this, because you're literally trying to like force someone who's not putting in any effort. And I know the result. I know you'll be back in 2 years. And so sometimes I've had to let a couple of clients go in the past with that. But, sometimes you've got to do your best at the time, and people make their own mistakes. But it is a hard thing. I see a lot of people come to dating advice and go, I want that person. Get me that person. I'm like, what's that person done to be so attractive? Nothing. He's just really good looking. Effort is attractive. How much time we got? Oh, Anya, we're about out of time. We got the new guest coming in. So, Anya, where can the ladies find out more about you?
You can follow me on Instagram at Elevated Woman Training, or go to my website, elevatedwomantraining.com.
Elevated Woman Training. You can find Anya on Instagram. Hey, Anya, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure having your company.
Thank you. It was so fun. I'm grateful to be here and to work with this amazing audience of yours. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Anya. You do amazing work. Thanks for joining us. So Anya joins me in my programs to help clients get in their bodies and to help them feel into that feminine energy side of themselves. And it's especially if you're in a work mode, you're in a masculine mode a lot of the time, transitioning into that feminine energy mode, which is such a gift for the men that you are around, for any man in your life, but especially the one you're dating or your partner. It's massive. So if you want to work with me as well, there's a link in the description. You can fill out a form and apply. I still do almost all my stuff one-on-one, which is pretty cool, a little time consuming, but I love it. So let's have a look at some more questions while we wait for our next guest to arrive. This is going to be fun. You're going to like this next guest. I think he's just about to join us. So if you've got questions for my very next guest, make sure he's here. He's a very, very cool guy. Shall we bring him on? Yeah, I reckon we bring him on. What do you say? Let's do it. Let's add him to the stream. One of my very good friends. We've got Mr. Matt Schaffer joining us.
Good night, mate. Good on you.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
That was my best Mark Rosenfeld right there. That's all I got.
This
Also,
hair of yours, look at it.
trying to see. You see, I'm channeling my inner Mark. See, I whipped it back, but I don't have the full on, thing. Let's see
yet.
yours.
Not yet.
How you doing back there?
Out of control at the moment. My hair's out of control. Dude, this lockdown has affected.
You are the last samurai, bro. You are the last samurai with that thing.
I get the Fabio hair going. It is long at the moment, my hair, but I'm loving it. You know what? I'm actually feeling it at the moment. So, how are you, brother?
Great, buddy. I'm doing wonderful. So good to be with you, man. I always love hanging out. Always love hanging out with you, bro. I had a great time with your community the other day.
It's so much fun. And Matt came in and came into the clients as well, had a chat with all my clients. So if you are a client of mine, or if you want to be, check the link in the description, and we get guests like Matt and Anya, and it's pretty damn cool. Hey, if you got a question for Matt, leave it in the chat. Leave it in the chat. Let's check it out. What do we got here? This is from Hian. This is love what Anya was saying about living in alignment. It will attract the right people. Much appreciated. Let's have a look. We got Annalise, who asks, any advice for someone who is newly single during COVID? What are some positive and proactive things to do while staying safe? Oh, bit of an open question there. Matt, would you like to kick us off?
Absolutely. So, I mean, in part of my courses and in the work that I do with my clients and students, I always operate through dating as like a process and a continuum, so you want to manage, you're the conductor of the relationship, right? So you're the one setting the tempo of the relationship and trusting the man to then be the driver, right? You're the one setting the tempo through your boundaries and through the invitations that you're making to the man. And then he's the one who will then be driving things forward if he is invested, if he resonates with you, and if y'all are in alignment, right? So COVID is just an interesting environment in which to practice that dynamic. So when it comes to dating during COVID, I always advise, don't get into messaging pen pal relationships with people online, right? Like get them on the phone, like within a week. Like don't waste,
100%.
weeks and weeks, giving your thumbs arthritis, talking to somebody. Like get on the phone with them, get on a Zoom or a FaceTime with them. I mean, a lot of times I like doing Zoom and FaceTime dates when I'm out there and I'm connecting with women during COVID. It's like, go on FaceTime, go on Zoom and see if there's something there, because you can really pick up a lot about somebody. So having a drink with somebody over Zoom, I've done those dates. And then, if you do have a valid connection, then you move things forward into potentially going and having a socially distanced walk, maybe going and grabbing a taco and sitting at a safe distance from each other for a little while. I mean, there's a million things you can do as long as you're being, as long as you're open to connection. Really, I think what it really comes down to fundamentally is like, how are you showing up? Like, are you showing up open to connection? Because I think a lot of people in this climate, right, of COVID, they've gotten so fearful that they're shutting down or they're using COVID as an excuse to play small and hide out. So I honestly find that it's actually a huge advantage to be dating during this time period because a lot of people have taken themselves out of the game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity, honestly. If you are newly single, I mean, I'm not sure, Annalise, how long you've been single for. It's also an opportunity to really reset for yourself. So it's an opportunity for you to say, hey, what books have I wanted to read? Have I let my health go at all? Do I want to get really back on that horse? Especially during COVID when we're locked down, it's a real opportunity to say, what do I want? What are my values? And how can I follow them even more now that I'm single? Because you got some extra time on your hands, right? Both lockdown and being single.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point, Mark. And yeah, I guess the newly single part is definitely important to look at because if you just became single, I always invite my clients and students, if they're just coming out of a relationship, to reflect back on that relationship and ask yourself, right? Like, what from that relationship, what were your greatest lessons that you learned? What do you want to take from that relationship and carry forward into your next one? Right? Like, what about your previous partner do you want to have reflected in your next partner? And what do you not want from that past relationship in your next relationship? And use that to kind of like mold your intention and your vision around the relationship that you're looking for moving forward. Like there's always blessings and incredible growth that can happen from past relationships, as long as we're conscious about that. So yeah, going through a period of reflection and asking yourself, what do you want to change about yourself? Yeah. How do you want to grow within yourself before going back into another relationship is important.
Yeah, I love that. One of my favorite exercises to do with clients is to reflect and take them into what I call the turning points, which is the point where, hey, your relationship probably ended, down here because of X problem. Maybe it was total disconnection, or maybe there was even infidelity or something not nice that happened. But a lot of the problems in relationships start as very baby versions very early on. So you can achieve a lot of change and transformation by finding those little baby points right near the beginning. And then next time you're out dating, just change those little baby points. And it's like the whole Ashton Kutcher and the butterfly effect. Have you seen that movie? If you haven't,
I love that movie.
It's amazing.
So good.
Change one thing, change everything. Right? So you create these different turning points. Yeah.
100%.
Let's have a look at
your process. Yep.
Nance has a question. Nance says, why do I only attract men that seem to find me a challenge? And when I let my guard down, the most recent was over a period of 6 months. They don't try as hard and seem disinterested. What can I do? Nance, in my experience, what's often happening in this sort of situation is when I work with a particular type of client, and it's often a client who's very outwardly attractive, who has her shit together. She's very sort of alluring almost. She's almost like a little bit of that that sort of Instagram, or she sort of has on the surface, like, men look at her and say, that's great. I love the idea of that. But what it actually, at least in my experience, I've seen a lot, is that woman's actually leaning back a lot. So because she's got a great image, she does get a lot of interest and a lot of men come to her, but a lot of those men are those that are more interested in her image than her. And so through her image, she actually filters in a lot of the wrong kinds of guy, and they're guys that aren't that emotionally available themselves. And then a few months later, she opens up and becomes more real, shares the stuff that are real about her vulnerabilities, or the things that you'd never, put on Instagram, her fears, whatever it is. And those guys are like, wait a minute, I just wanted the model. Or wait a minute, I just wanted the good-looking doctor. I'm not here for this shit. And then, unfortunately, they get out, and the pattern repeats, because then these women feel rejected for who they are, and they feel like, oh, well, people just want sort of my image, and so they repress more who they are and get more guys interested in image, and it becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, a lot of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So my experience has been for these women, they need to show up more vulnerably in dating. They need to almost put, weird as it sounds, less attractive sides of themselves across initially, or what they perceive to be less attractive, which can actually create more connection. So they weed in or filter in the guys that are really interested in them for them, and less of these guys that are like, oh, she'd look good on my arm, she's got a great job and she's tall, that's great for me. You get less of that and more real men. What do you think, Matt?
Dude, you took the words out of my mouth, man. I have this thing with women who lean back. Like, leaning back has become such a doctrine for women. And the problem is when you lean back so far that you put yourself on an island, or you lean back so far that you put yourself on like a tower of like a castle, right? And you're basically, challenging men to have to storm the gates. What happens is the only men that are willing to storm the gates are a lot of times like these alpha, like these very alpha, maybe manipulative, like men that are looking, and they love that challenge, but it's only the challenge that they're into. It's the conquest of sieging the castle. You know what I'm saying? Once the castle is sieged, they don't want to sit there in the castle and hang out with you. They want to go find another castle to siege. Challenge. You know what I'm saying? That's why. And then what happens is and unfortunately it reinforces, because a lot of women, they adopt that leaning back because they want to protect themselves from all the men who are narcissists and players and everything else. And the tragic irony is those are the guys they end up attracting, right? And then it reinforces that belief. Oh, well, no matter how much I lean back, I keep attracting these, players and these guys who aren't willing to like really drop in with me. And it's like, well, yeah, because that's the energy that you're putting out. You're putting out the sort of energy that they're drawn to up front. So like Mark was saying, when you lead, when you open with confident, like open vulnerability, when like you're clear about who you are right up front, and you're like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm looking for. And I'm not saying you roll out the red carpet for everybody, but I'm saying like you create a container where it's not a game. It's not a game. It's just very you're readily apparent for everybody who you are and what you're about, right? You're going to attract a different type of guy, and a different relationship paradigm is going to just start flowing in, And so, Nance, I mean, I would just sort of like look at like, what kind of challenge are you presenting to men? Is it like a calculated leaning back challenge, or is it, men do want to invest, right? And you want to continue to invite them to set the bar higher with you. You know what I'm saying? But you want to make sure you're doing that from like an authentic, genuine, open space, rather than just, doing a challenge for the sake of the challenge.
Yeah. I love that advice, Matt. We've got Duchess of Potato Land says my two favorite coaches together. What a blessed day I got. Pleasure to have you here, Duchess. We got Matt. I need relationship help still, lol. But I got out of the Facebook group. Too many Fs. I don't know what to do with that. We got, oh my God, he's here with us. Yes. We got Nancy. I'm not 100% sure what Nancy Nicolette's talking about there. It's a response to another comment. Wow, guys, great to see you both. Let's find another question. What do we got here? When do I know if I'm asking too much in a relationship or if I'm just asking the wrong man? Would love your advice. Matt, you want to lead with this one?
Let's see. So, I mean, how do I know if I'm asking for too much versus whether I'm just asking the wrong person? Well, I mean, obviously follow-up questions are, like, what are you asking for? You know what I'm saying? Because if you're asking to be seen and heard and understood and appreciated, if you're asking for, like basic fundamental, like rights in relationship, if you're asking to, receive as much as you give in relationship, if you're looking for like basic reciprocity and to be understood and appreciated for who you are, I'll just give you a little preview. That's not too much. That's not too much. No matter what you saw from your parents, no matter what you may have experienced in relationships, up until now, like wanting to be seen and appreciated for who you are is 100% valid. And you shouldn't feel guilty about that just because someone told you that you should. You know what I'm saying? If you're saying that every man that you date, needs to get you a Maserati and needs to take you to, Belize every 3 months or like whatever, like that, if that's what we're talking about here, then yeah, you might be a tiny bit unreasonable or setting a bar that, not many men are going to be able to meet. You know what I'm saying? So it's a broad question, but like at the end of the day, I want you to ask yourself, like look at the healthy relationships you have around you from people around you and what they ask of each other. And is what you're asking for sort of a reflection of that? Or is it something else? It's just a good place to start when you're asking that question.
Yeah, I love that. I always think needs and wants, sort of divide them in your head into two categories, right? There's the actual action, which might be, I want a hug or I want a Maserati or I want more present time or whatever it is. There's a certain actions that you're probably aware of. And then there's the needs behind the actions. So whenever I have a client who I'm helping with this, is this standard unreasonable? The first thing I always say is, look, you can set whatever standards you want, but I'd encourage you to ask yourself, why? Why is that important to you? Oh, I need a Maserati from every guy I date. Okay, why is that important to you? And really diving into the reasons. And far be it for me to say, hey, you can't have a Maserati. There's some people it's like, fuck it, I want to date a guy with a Maserati. I'm like, probably not going to be the coach for them or the person they vibe with. But, if they want to go off and do that, far be it for me to kind of say that that's wrong. But when you really reveal the why, you often get to, okay, what's the deeper need underneath, right? And if you're being really honest with yourself when you identify that need, you'll be able to select for relationship a lot better and also potentially be flexible on the thing, but solid on the need. Right. So you might say, okay, I want him to text me every day, but the need is I want to feel secure. You say, actually, maybe phone calls or maybe feeling a sense of trust where we touch base regularly via video calls, whatever it is. Sometimes these can be editable if you're solid on the back end and what you want there. But I always like to go back to the question of why.
I love that. And because here's the thing, y'all, if you need a material thing to feel worthy or to feel secure in a relationship, let me just tell you, it's never going to work. Like it's never going to provide no material thing that you could get from a partner or just, like physical gratification that you'll get from a partner is going to give you that sense of internal stability, security, worthiness. You'll be throwing stuff into that void, sex, money, toys, whatever, into that void forever. Right. And I've seen it happen. I've known people in my life who no matter what their partners would give them, and they would only date men who were very wealthy or very successful, they were so deeply insecure because of, trauma. that no matter what they got, it was never enough. So yeah, looking at those whys is so important, and it can also help direct where to start your own inner work, which is oftentimes a necessary prerequisite. I know Mark and I both are very big advocates of this. Doing deep inner work is massively important for laying the foundation to be in a healthy relationship. Like it's everything.
And I would just want to add one more thing here, which is when you ask for it, I think I said this earlier in the stream, we get used to asking and setting up a contract in our brain where the person has to give it. Like, oh, I'm asking you for present time and you're then obliged to give me that. Right? And it's really important to get men being honest. And if they can't meet a need, that's okay. You want them to be honest about it, because with honesty, you can either find another way to meet that need, whatever it is, security, or you can honestly say, okay, I appreciate you being so honest. That allows me to decide if this relationship is right for me. So we get stuck in thinking that, okay, well, this is going to be too much. I have this need. You don't know. You've got to ask, right? And that's the only way to know, is to ask and protect his freedom, get him being honest. The last thing you want from a guy is him feeling obligated, like, oh, I have to do this, because the ball and chain says so. Like, no. Like, I don't want you to do anything that you don't want to do, that you don't choose to do. So really listening for him. And sometimes, and this is how a lot of healing occurs, sometimes what you think is too much, which is like, oh, I just want someone who, one thing my partner asked me for is, she said, hey, because I tend to not, I think of her a lot, but I don't often message when I do. So she said, and she was really scared to say it, her coach is like, ask Mark for this. And she said, hey, sometimes when you think of me, it would mean a lot to me if you could like text me, just like that you're thinking of me. And I was like, yeah, cool. Right. But she was like, oh, I don't know if I want to ask for this. And for me, that wasn't asking too much at all. But she had to kind of get over her preconceptions of what was too much and ask the question. And because she didn't force it down my throat, I was like, yeah, happy to do that. That's easy. And now she gets healing from it. And she's like, oh, I can receive that. I'm not too much. I can get that need met. So allow men the choice would be the other piece I'd say there. But you don't know until you ask.
You don't know until you ask. And, men, it's a sign of high value. It's a demonstration of high value from the perception of a man for a woman to feel and recognize that a woman knows what she wants and she feels strong enough to ask for it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's very frustrating to feel like you have to continue to guess what a woman likes, what a woman wants, where her boundaries are. Like, it's like you're fumbling around in the dark, like trying to feel for the walls of like a room that you're in, and all you want is to be able to make this person happy. And we don't know that. Like, men are not mind readers is like a thing I come back to again and again with my clients and students, right? Like, we are not mind readers. We need your help. Boundaries are not masculine. They're not oppressive to us. We crave them because men crave structure. We want to operate within a structure, right? And that goes for our relationships just as much as it goes for anything else. And you're doing us a great favor by being clear and asking what you want and what you need.
Boundaries empower us as men. It empowers us because any human being, men in dating as an example, we default to the path of least resistance, right? So if you just allow us to kind of, we'll date you without a label and we get 3 days a week with you, but we don't have to commit. So we get all the boyfriend benefits, but there's no like boundaries around it. We'll just default to that because our fear of losing our freedom.
Not just like sketchy guys, good guys, like normal dudes we will default to pseudo relationship. Just because if we're able to get that and that's like what it is, like we'll be okay with that. You know what I'm saying? So like just recognize like you have a tremendous power. Like I want you to really think of like yourself as the conductor of the symphony of love, right? You are the one on the podium with your little baton and the man is in the orchestra holding on to his bassoon. That got very phallic when we were talking about the bassoon in the group. Like, don't necessarily think of it as but also you kind of can.
Every stream you're on, it gets phallic.
It always gets phallic with. I don't know why it happens.
It's a bad thing.
Yeah, it's a bad thing, sure. But he's looking up at you, holding on to his bassoon, and he's looking to you for guidance. He wants you to tell him, to demonstrate to him, to make an invitation for him to pick up his bassoon and play it for you.
Yeah,
So
and,
does that make
it's
sense?
so powerful.
Yeah.
Because in that, we had a question earlier where the girl said, hey, I've been seeing this guy for 6 months. In 12 months, he's going away for an additional 12 months. He's just floating along in his sort of comfort zone because they didn't have a label yet. And by her putting in a boundary with him and her letting him choose, she gets him more into his truth. She gets him to either say, hey, you know what? I really do want freedom. I'm more in touch with that now. Or, hey, no, I am going to step up and put in the work to commit to you. So he either becomes more honest or he works harder, which either way is a good thing for him. So your boundaries are not restrictive. They're only restrictive if you force them down our throats. But otherwise, the boundaries actually empower us. Always remember that. It's like it allows us to not take the path of least resistance.
There's freedom and responsibility. My dad told me that when I was in my first serious relationship. He told me there's freedom and responsibility. And I always come back to that because boundaries are a form of proactive responsibility, that can help people foster a deeper relationship. So don't be scared, ladies. And if a man is not, if he's completely resistant to boundaries and labels and anything, and he's just pushing back on you every step of the way, he's the wrong man, Denise. You know what I'm saying? If nothing that you're asking for is landing or resonating with him, then he's the wrong man. He's a reflection of what you're, not worthy of. And therefore he just gets to be lovingly released back into the wild. Because
back into the dating wild. Hey, we got a sexy time question from Sarah Popovich. How can we tell a guy what he's doing wrong in bed, or telling him what we like without emasculating him or making him feel bad? Your content is amazing, by the way. Thanks for your videos. Thank you for the lovely questions, Sarah. Matt, love to hear your thoughts on this one. Do you have a go-to piece around sexual?
I got lots to say. Yeah, I have lots of sexy time videos up on my channel, which is the ladies love them. They love them. Okay. So, when it comes to giving a man feedback in bed, it's always better. And this just isn't for sex. This is for all things. It's so much better to guide him towards what you like through a positive, feeling statement. It feels so good when you touch me here. I love it when you kiss me there. And just like how, you use positive reinforcement with a dog in the moment, right? When a dog does something that's a good thing, oh my God. Like, you tell oh my God, Bosco, you're such a good boy. And you give him a treat right in that moment. If he touches yeah. It's like, if Bosco does something that I appreciate. Bosco turned 14 yesterday. Yeah, it was his birthday yesterday. So, if Bosco does something that makes me happy, I'll immediately be like, oh my God, Bosco, that's such a good boy. And I'll give him a little kiss, or I'll give him some positive reinforcement in the moment.
Has everyone else just noticed that their eyes match?
and so and so you giving a man positive reinforcement when he touches you the right way, or he kisses you the right way, or he, does a move in bed that you're really a fan of, moan, give him a little scream, give him a little, oh my God, that feels so good. The more you're being vocal with him, and again, it doesn't have to be loud, doesn't have to be theatrical, but just, demonstrating that, you're enjoying it, and even giving him specific feedback, up a little bit, down a little bit. We don't care, especially if we're emotionally invested in you. Like, please just tell us. Just tell us. I love it when you bite my ear. Huh?
I said no faking orgasms.
No, please don't do that. You're not helping anybody. You're not by faking an orgasm. All you're doing is you're giving a man false feedback that then he's thinking that he's doing it right. And so then you're not getting what you want, and he's being deceived, and he's going to keep doing the wrong thing. We'd much rather know how we can shift, right? Because we are invested in your emotional well-being. We want to make you feel good when it comes to sex. We want to make you feel good when it comes to a relationship. So I'll be like, oh my God, I'd love to do knife play, but he said, no, he doesn't want to hurt me. That's comment. That's one of the best comments I've ever read. Thank you, Ratchi, for that one. Here's the thing. I mean, and I've never done knife. I've never done knife play, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Mark, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure if you're doing knife play right, nobody gets hurt, right?
I kind of want to Google this now. Let's have a look.
You never heard of knife play?
No.
Oh, it's a subset of bondage. It's a subset of BDSM, which I'm a fan of that, but I've never done knife play. It's where like you tie somebody up, but then it involves knives and sex. But you're not cutting the person. You're like holding knives near them. Maybe you like cut a rope or some
threat arousal and the safety in them. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
So if you're into something like knife play, it might be a good idea to just tell him that, because that is not something that most men are gonna, and if he's scared of hurting you, just let him know that, like, as long as y'all are doing it right, nobody gets.
I'm just imagining my partner walking in with a big knife and like, babe, I want to do this tonight.
Yeah.
What?
Get out. Yeah. Get out the duct tape. Get out the duct tape, Mark.
I need to tie you up.
And you know what? She'd grab you. She'd duct tape you, then grab you by your ponytail, and then just cut that bad boy off right at the root, bro.
I can imagine that this would get very scary as that knife descends downwards. Like, that is a very vulnerable position to be in.
Very scary or very sexy, depending upon what you're into. I mean, I think there are some people. But yeah, so we've gone down the rabbit hole. Okay, so just to go back to where we were talking about. So again, inviting him to do the things that make you feel good, giving him positive feedback through your body and through your moans and through everything like that. If he's doing something wrong, just being like, hey, like, I appreciate what you're doing. Why don't we try it this way? Like, acknowledge the effort, because all men need is a little acknowledgement, of our effort, even if we're doing something wrong. Just a little acknowledgement and then a redirection into doing something that you like more. Hey, this is nice. Why don't we try it this way? You see what you're doing there? Because if you scold a man, if you're just like, no, that feels terrible, right?
Just like
that's a ego. Because physicality is an emotional intimacy act for a lot of men. Physical expression is an emotionally intimate thing for a lot of guys, and if you just reprimand them, it's going to be emasculating and it's going to hurt them at the ego level, which isn't what you want.
Yes, let's go on to what's this one? Now, I'm pretty sure I just want sex if he's not trying. Every time we start the conversation, how do I start the talk with what we expect from each other? So I'm going to read that again. I'm pretty sure I just want sex if he's not trying to be more. But every time we meet, I'm not quite following this one, Matt. Are you?
How do I start the topic? Okay, so what she's saying, from what I can tell, is she's cool with just having sex if he doesn't want more. But every time they meet up, she doesn't start the conversation. How do I start the talk? The talk around what we expect for each other. So there's muddy water. You don't know if he wants just a physical relationship or if he wants something more, but you're cool with it just being physical if that's what he wants. But you're not sure I think what she's saying is she isn't sure what he wants, and she isn't sure how to start that conversation with him. So
I would keep that. Well, I would keep that pretty simple, Laura. I'd honestly, next time you see him, just check in and say, hey, I just want to kind of check in where you're at. I'm actually happy with casual if that's something you want to do, but I'm also open to more, if that's something you're thinking as well. Where are you at? Just listen.
I'm on board completely with that, Mark. And yeah, just always, always in a situation like this, hey, I'm really having fun. I'm enjoying this, and if this is just fun, that's totally cool. But, and I'm down, right? But I'm curious, like, do you want to have fun, or are you open for something, more than fun? Right. And then just sort of, but keep it an open thing. Not maybe that he doesn't want a relationship, but like, are you open for something more than that? Or you just want to, mess around? Either way, I'm cool. And I think that's actually really, because most women aren't cool with that, right? So I think he'll appreciate you coming to him from just a
The
space of
honesty.
curiosity, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's the energy that you want to bring to the conversation is curiosity, because a lot of men are going to hear the "where is this going" conversation and be like that can be a triggering conversation for a lot of guys or whatever.
I had
or
an
a
ex
scary one.
do this with me magnificently, and she's just like, "Hey, look, I just want to know where you're at. I actually had a different guy ask me out recently, and I actually said no because I wasn't sure where we're at, but I'm just curious, where are you at? I want to be on the same page. If you're seeing other people, that's okay. If you're not, do you see this moving forward?" And then she framed it as, I said no to this guy, but if you're taking other dates, then I don't want to feel guilty about doing the same. And I felt very free. And that was a very honest and powerful way for her to bring it up, where I was like, I'm actually into this. I think I'd like to do the exclusive thing with you. She was like, great.
And so now the question is, bro, was there ever another guy that asked her out?
I would assume with her, I would assume she was pretty social. She was pretty social, pretty out there. So I think that was the truth.
And she was a beautiful woman. I have no doubt, Mark Rosenfeld.
Haley says, "Hey, Matt, in my experience dating, most men don't seem to ask many or any questions. How can I change this? Do I let them know about this, or do I move on and find someone who does ask questions?" That's an interesting problem, Haley. Yeah, you go.
I love it. I love it. I love that. I love that question. And I get that I feel your pain on that. And I think a principle that I want to draw you back to is one of the greatest things that a woman does, right, is that she's the conductor, right, of the emotional and communicative aspects of the relationship. So one of the greatest ways that you can invite a man to act in congruence with what you want is by leading by example. So if you want more questions asked to you, I want you to check in with yourself and ask yourself, are you asking questions to him? And if you are, what type of questions are you asking to him? Are you asking shallow daily report questions? Oh, what did you do today? Or like whatever, just like, because if the conversation is like that, and if you're leading the way and demonstrating communication with him with questions that aren't exciting or invigorating or anything like that, then he's not going to feel, excited to reciprocate that to you. But if you're leading the way with interesting questions, like, what are you passionate about? Like, what's a time that you felt naked or afraid? Like if you're watching a TV show, like inviting him to tell stories. I have a lot of videos on the type of great questions to ask men. 9 types of questions to ask men, right? Questions that invite him to talk about, fun stuff he did when he was little. I bet you were a mama's boy, weren't you? How was your, what was your relationship with your mom like growing up? Like stuff like that gets him to sort of just like drop in and tell stories. Men are storytellers. And so if you're asking him questions, he's going to feel that there's a safe space for him to ask questions back to you. That's sort of like phase 1 of my answer, right? Like lead the way and see if he follows you, right? And if he's not willing to follow you and ask you questions after you've demonstrated for him, that stuff, then you can give him some feedback on it. You can be like, hey, so, I'd love for us to learn more about each other. Again, always grounding things in a positive feeling statement. I'd love to learn more about each other. Why don't we ask each other some fun questions and see how it goes? Just like make an invitation to him and then see how he responds to it would be the next strategy I would use.
Yeah, I'd be curious, Haley, to know. Haley, what context. I suspect this could be an online meeting question. So, but I'm not sure. Are these men not asking questions when you're actually on dates? It's interesting. After what Matt said, my first thought, I don't know if this is contradictory or not, was to make more statements. And the reason I say that was because, especially online, this works really obviously. In person, it's a little more flowy. But the more you're sharing, often we get into question, and we forget that we often relate by sharing statements. And if you're showing up on the dates, because I love what Matt said about creating a safe energy, if you're showing up on the dates and you're sharing about yourself, stuff that's little stories, whatever it is, and you're genuinely putting across a good vibe about, I grew up with this beautiful dog. He was so cute. He had this and he had this. By you sort of just holding some of that space and sharing stuff about yourself, you're going to give him lots of little hook points to think about. And I would have thought if you're really talking about these things with passion and you're expressing stuff that you love, that you're going to seem interesting. If you go to a bar, then often the most interesting person at the bar is the person with the most interesting stories, right? If you got two different people at a bar, you got one person who's like, oh my God, I just came back from Pakistan and I was like in this crazy, we were like running around with some of the military people, and then I had to fly quickly out to the Netherlands. You're like, oh my God, this person's so interesting. Whereas I've found, at least from learning social skills myself, if someone gets too bogged down in questions, if there's someone else at the bar who's just asking questions, you find the person using the stories more interesting, generally speaking. And so you tend to get interested in that person. You tend to ask them more questions. So I would also balance what Matt said with sharing some really interesting stories and tidbits about yourself. And I just tend to find that at least a lot of my clients ask a lot of questions because they're not used to sharing with them about themselves. They're not used to kind of having that out there. And by having a really good energy, you kind of become the most interesting person on the date. Right? Just like the bar, it's like you're on the date and you're just sharing, and the guy's sitting there and he might be silent at first, but he's like, yeah, and he's just kind of listening along to your confidence and your energy. And certainly online and even in person as well, this actually kind of makes guys lean in and think, oh, what about that? Or how often did you do that? And then shutting up, allowing them to share. I think there's going to be a good dance when you bring out your own energy, and then just after you hold that space for a little bit, you'll seem interesting. And I suspect men are going to want to ask you questions to learn more, because you'll then be the interesting person. And then you can fire them back as five questions back. And because you've already shared, the guy will then feel in a safe space to share himself.
Yeah. Mark, I agree with you, buddy. I agree with you 100% on that. And just the follow up and to reinforce that, I call that holding your frame. Like in every relationship and every connection you have with somebody, he has a frame and you have a frame. That frame is basically like the parameters and outline of who you are and how you show up. So your likes and dislikes, your personal preferences, your opinions, your stories, your identity, your sense of self. And men are attracted to women that unapologetically show up owning their frame. Right? So owning who they are, what they're into, what they're passionate about, their past, their history. We love that. We love feeling like we're getting a sense of who this person is, rather than, connecting with somebody and all they do is just agree with what we say. Like, we want a woman who's not afraid to own herself, right? Own her frame, and also tease differences with our frame. So like, if he's really passionate about baseball, it's okay for you to be like, so what is it that you love about baseball, right? The fact that they're just standing 95% of the time, or the fact that they like scratch their balls every 30 seconds, making fun of like a difference between your frame and his frame, and then allowing him to sort of like justify it. And the more of yourself you show to him, the more opportunities you give for him to connect with you and ask you questions. So
yeah, it's almost like you're building a painting of yourself. And so he gets something to reach out and feel, and different elements to feel. And this is why statements are really important, especially online, because the more you make them, the more he can like draw a painting and see you. And there's something to grab onto, which separates you from the next woman. That's what makes you you. And you got to share that stuff.
Be interesting. Be an interesting person. Yep.
Yeah. Share the stuff you love. Let's go. Ivy's question. Hey, Matt, have you got a few more minutes?
Dude, I'm here to hang, bro. I'm here to kick it.
We'll go to about 1/2 So I've got a question from Ivy. How to be feminine when initiating. Difference chasing versus initiating when you are the one making the first move online with the guy you like. How long should the girl be initiating if the interaction continues? I spoke a little bit about this earlier. Matt, did you want to jump in on this one, or do you want me to take it away?
Yeah, when you're the one making the first move online with the guy you like, which by the way, I'm a huge proponent of that, because I think there's so much noise especially in online dating, that making a playful first initiating step is fantastic. You know, that
Yeah,
being
I
said,
love Bumble for that reason.
yeah, exactly. I think, yeah, Bumble is fantastic because it does put that initial thing on you, but that puts that initial responsibility on you, right? Because here's the thing, a lot of times, man, we don't know. We don't know. So you making that first step, but just asking a little question, making like a playful statement that invites a response is awesome. We like that. Like just saying, hey, is basically like, hi, I'm a girl and I'm acknowledging you. So now it's your turn, to just take, and it's like, I find
I'm going to poke you and then I'm going to stand over here.
You have been deemed worthy to communicate with me, and I'm going to text you a smiley face and then have you take it from there. Like, come on, like, I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? But just like a simple question that demonstrates that you read the profile, that you read that person's profile, oh, wow, is that in Kauai? Did you do that entire hike? Just like a simple contextually based question that demonstrates that you actually like read his profile, that you have like a degree of interest. And then, you're throwing him the ball, and then it's his responsibility to take the ball and throw it back, but it shouldn't be your responsibility to continue to initiate. So if you throw him the ball 2 or 3 times, even twice, honestly, in online dating, and he does not throw it back and respond to your question and then ask you something like substantive in return, then yeah, that guy's probably like distracted, or he's got a ton of stuff going on, or he's not really interested. So I think it's more like a 2 strikes, you're out situation where like if you initiate with a guy twice online and he doesn't give you back something and really assume the role of the driver of the dynamic and the communication, then don't spend any more time and energy on that person, right? Somebody that is really activated by you will want to take the ball and run with it. If that makes sense. Does that make sense, Mark?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I keep this stuff pretty simple. I'm a huge fan of initiating, again, with statements, high energy statements. So it could be as simple as all caps, you're wearing a hat. That could be like the whole thing. But it has to be something that you find funny that you want to say. And if you say that, again, I like the sort of 2 strikes rule. You do it again. You'll find a lot of guys move towards you. And then if they don't, it's easy. It's an easy filter. In this case, the other thing I was going to say is if you green light, if you say, hey, I'm not a huge texter, but, give me a call, it'd be great to speak in person, and he just doesn't pick that up, then just let it go. Sometimes
it's a beautiful filter.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to move things, like make the suggestion, because again, men sort of fall into their safe, lazy lane, even good guys, as Matt pointed out, but don't be the woman who can speak up, but not who has to keep speaking up, would be my advice on that. And don't do it for him. Green light, make it super, like blindingly obvious, but then don't actually do it for him. Like, hey, it'd be great to meet up in person. It could be as simple as that at the end of a text. Be great to continue this chat on the phone or in person. And if he doesn't pick that up and run with it, like, cool, lower your interest appropriately.
100. Yeah, because at that point you're like an air traffic controller, like guiding him in, and if he's not willing to land the plane and take it to another level, then don't waste your time,
All right, here we go. Interesting one here. Hello, guys, from Rose. I was wondering, why would an ex insist on being friends with benefits after communicating that I'm not comfortable with it when there are so many other girls out there? Look, men do some weird things sometimes. And one of the key pieces, I think, around understanding men is that sometimes our fears come out a little differently to the way yours do. And so we break up maybe because we feel we've lost our freedom, or because we just feel you're the wrong person, or we don't know how to say it, whatever. Relationship breaks up, but then we feel loneliness. And then, unfortunately, we also have this coding thing in our brains that says, oh, well, we don't want her to be with anyone else, or we still want the validation from that old source. And again, it's just kind of like we'll ride down that default line if you let us. If you let us, we'll just kind of float into that line. So empower us through boundaries, ladies.
It's the path of least resistance. And men crave comfort. Like we crave comfort, and we will take the path of least resistance. It's just, especially when it comes to physicality. And, he's already been there. It's, and he's probing you to see if you're open to it. You know what I'm saying? So you've said you're not comfortable with it. You've told him there's so many other girls out there. Why are you not going out? Because he's being lazy about it. And because he feels that there's a possibility that you might, even though you say you're not comfortable with it, that you might do it anyway. And at the end of the day, he wants to get off. Like being real, like the guy wants to get off and he wants to do it with the minimal amount of work possible, and he wants to keep that relationship in a way that's convenient for him and on his terms. And clearly that's not an alignment for you. So it's a good opportunity for you to, practice setting boundaries and stand in your power and say, it's flattering that you want that. And also I'm not going to do it.
It's not for me. Hey, we got now I know, Matt, you've got a program as well that you're doing. This is Be the Gift of Difference, one of the lovely ladies from your VIP Magnets group. Happy Saturday from the UK. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Matt, you go. What's the program that you're launching pretty soon?
Absolutely. Well, to everybody here watching live, I want you to know that I'm opening up my Mastery of Connection program. I'm offering it as a free beta test for everybody in Mark's audience. So I'm going to put a link, or there's a link. Mark, do you have that link that I sent you?
I have. Let me find it here.
I'm putting it I'm trying to put it in the chat. But basically, like what this is, I just messaged it to you, Mark. But back in the day. But basically, this program. It's going to be a 3-week live coaching program with me to help you transform the way you connect with yourself and others. So it's going to help you create better relationships from the inside out. Geraldine is one of my students. We've served over 10,000 women in 50 plus countries around the world, including many in Mark's amazing community in past launches. So it's a really beautiful program. We've had women get married out of this program, attract incredible relationships, including Miss Geraldine. Her guy is just, I think Ian was his name, right? Or Ian's her guy. He's amazing. So it's going to be 3 weeks live with me. We do belief work. You have about 20 video lessons, office hours live twice a week with me, and it's absolutely free for you as a member of Mark's community. So he just put a link in the chat there.
In the chat. I'll put it in the description after the video as well. So check it out. That link is in the chat, ladies. If you want to join Matt for his free 3-week Mastery of Connection program, it's a tongue twister. Check it out. The link is in the description.
It starts February 8th, y'all. February 8th, just in time for Valentine's Day.
February 8th. Beautiful. We got 11 minutes, ladies, so get your questions in. Last chance to ask Matt and myself a question while we're online together. Let's see who's posted one lately. Because one breath. Where's the questions, ladies? My long distance boyfriend has never had touch from. Let's pop this one on while you post more questions. KK says, my long distance boyfriend has never had touch from me. He doesn't want to lose me. He hasn't had cyber sex with me in about a month. Personally, KK, I'd probably need to know a few more contextual details. Like, is this a boyfriend where you've spent a lot of time together and then gone long distance? Or is this someone you met? Oh, has never had touch from me? No, so I assume not. This is these when you met someone online, KK, it really does make it tough. And if I'm being super honest, I get a lot of clients who come to me, and this might not necessarily be you, but I do get clients who come to me where we look at the way they're creating relationships, and a lot of the online finding people at a super long distance is their own fear of intimacy that's manifesting in, hey, I can, again, what I spoke about earlier, I can find love from a safe distance. Almost like when you go to a zoo, and you go up to the tiger, but the tiger's on the other side of the glass. And it's kind of like, okay, here's a way for me to get the pretty thing, get the nice thing, and sort of feel like I'm close to it, but actually be in a real space of safety because the glass is there, right, with the tiger. So I think you got to check yourself for that and just go, is there a piece of me here that could be holding this relationship out there and not putting boundaries with it because it keeps me safe? If not, if you're like, hey, no, we just happened to meet online, it was a weird thing, but that's how it worked and we connected really well, then I'd be encouraging you to say, hey, when are you meeting up? You know, is this moving forward? Do you trust this guy? If this is your boyfriend, which you still say here, your long distance boyfriend, then I would imagine you guys are planning to see each other, right? You're working together, you're wanting to work this out. And I'd encourage you, if that's not happening, you know, check in. Why is that not happening? Could you put more boundaries around that, or could you chat to him? Because I believe that relationships are designed for in person, right? It's not designed to stay long distance. That's just sometimes a modern means to a happy, a fulfilling end, right? So if that's not on the plans and if that's not on the radar, check in and go, how come?
Exactly, Mark. I love that. I love everything you said. I don't have a ton to add. I would just say that if he doesn't want to lose you, that you know, he's invested right in your happiness. And if cyber sex is something that's really important to you, then expressing, you know, what that looks like, what that feels like, what frequency you want, and everything, like being specific about what it is that you're looking for, because you know, regularity and continuity of connection is super important, especially in a long distance relationship where you don't have that easy default of that physical touch point, you know? And so if cyber sex is important to you, then that's going to be how you're going to need to play that. If cyber sax, which is what you wrote, if cyber sax is important to you, then, you know, I mean, I'm happy to give that to you. Here, hold on one second. This is an actual cyber saxophone. This is actually an electronic saxophone. And I just wanted to play you a little cyber sax just to hopefully that made you smile a little bit.
Trust Matt to pull that out of nowhere. Matt actually has a real
had a cyber sax next to
just
my
waiting in the background. Is there anything this guy doesn't have? All right. Lucia, I know you said you put a question in the comments as well. I'm going to get to more of those, but if you have it here, copy and paste it here as well, because I appreciate you leaving it in both places. So let me know. Lucia, I'll keep an eye out for your question because you've been so good and posted in the comments as well. Jenna says, Mark and Matt, I met a 40-year-old who wants marriage and kids. I'm 35. After so many flaky guys, this has kind of made me panic. I want that too, but for some reason am panicking. Help. Oh. Matt, you want to kick this one off?
Absolutely. So first off, the fact that he's 40, first off, okay, so fundamentally y'all have alignment, right? You want these things, you want marriage and kids. He wants marriage and kids at 40, which is pretty exceptional because a lot of guys, by the time they hit 40, a lot of them have tapped out on the kids, either because they've had them before or that's not something that they're really into anymore. So it sounds like you found a great guy, especially after so many flaky guys you've had up until now, but you're panicking, right? So really asking yourself, what's at the root of your panic, right? Because and especially if you look at your history up until now, all the guys you've attracted up until now have been flakes, right? And if every relationship is a mirror for us at some level, then were those flaky past relationships a reflection of your own fear of intimacy at a deeper level? Because we can want something, we can want kids, we can want marriage, we can want commitment. But if we have an underlying belief that we're not worthy of it, if we have an underlying belief that men can't be trusted, if we have an underlying belief that if I allow a man deeply into my life, that he's just going to hurt me, you know, whenever there's a conflict between what we want at the head level and what we believe at the heart level or at the deeper level, beliefs are always going to win. You know what I'm saying? So this could be your beliefs, you know, reacting and your worthiness issues or whatever it is, like reacting to, you know, the possibility of actually getting what you want, right? It's like the dog in the fire truck, right? The dog finally gets the fire truck and now it's like, well, what the hell do I do now? You know? So doing some deep belief work, maybe coming along and doing Mastery of Connection with us here on February 8th and signing up. We'll get to the root of that and we'll unpack it, because chances are that your panic is a conflict between what you want and what you believe you're worthy of, sort of coming into contention.
Yeah, as Matt says, if you've had that in the past, it's understand that when you put it in front of you, like the dog with the fire truck, you go, oh shit, this is actually scary as hell. And I think we forget that. I think a lot of times, especially if you haven't had the perfect upbringing, which most of us haven't, a lot of clients, when I work with them, you know, they realize that, oh, this is actually like quite scary or uncomfortable. Like, you know, I was sitting back loving the idea of love and like, I'm going to find the man and this is great. And then you actually put them in the situation with it and they're like, oh shit, this is genuinely uncomfortable. And it's uncomfortable in a good way. It's sort of like the uncomfortable of, you know, a gym session when you're first coming back and you haven't been to the gym for a while is going to suck. So it's a good uncomfortable, but it is unpleasant. And being able to sit with that and lean into it. And if this is a lovely guy who's like, yep, you know what, I'm 40, I'm stopped my player ways or I've stopped my old single ways, whatever, and I'm ready. I know what I want. I know I want it with a good woman. Then it's going to require you to lean into a lot of fears with him and go, hey, you know, I've been abandoned for wanting this before, or I haven't had someone who's really wanted to show up for me before. And he will he will choose to hold you through that. And that's what will really form a solid bond with him. And I'm sure he's had his own fears, you know, that have kept him single until he's 40. A lot of men are brought up with their own fears. He'll be able to hopefully share those fears with you, and then you can hold him through those fears. And that's how you guys will actually really bond deeply, and you'll feel very safe again with this. And in that way, relationships can be very healing. And there's work you can do in relationship that you almost can't do it on your own, because you need someone to reflect back the missing piece from whatever wasn't there from the parents, that, hey, that is acceptable and I am going to love you through that. But it's scary to lean into. It brings up all that old shit. So it's weird. It can be genuinely uncomfortable at times. But as I say, it should be a good kind of uncomfort.
But it's something, and it's something to be excited about, right? The fact that you're panicking a lot of times is that your ego is resisting and panicking about the fact that you're going to step into and evolve into a new version of yourself in this relationship, that you're finally going to get what you want. Because remember, your egoic self is this fixed sense of self that's been created through all of your past experiences, all of your past wounds. And your ego wants to define you as, I am alone, right? I am this person who doesn't have a relationship. I am this person where the man always leaves. I am this person where I always self-sabotage. You know, that's who I am. And this man is a reflection to you of that greater possibility of who you truly are, right? Someone who's worthy of being loved, someone who's worthy of having a man commit to you for the rest of your life. And your ego is going like, no shit, no, you're still this person who deserves to be alone because that's all you've ever had, because that's what your dad said to you when you were friggin' 8, or what your boyfriend said to you when you were 15, you know? And so there's like a panic mode. It's like an emergency mode, because when you step out of your fixed identity, a part of your ego dies. And so your ego is fighting for its life in this situation, and let it die, let it freak out, and honestly share with this dude. If this guy wants marriage and kids with you and he's on board and he's invested in you, you know, it's okay for you to say, hey, so just so you know, this is bringing up some stuff for me, you know, and it's not that I'm not excited about the possibility of that relationship with you, but you know, this is what's coming up for me. And he'll hold space for that with you and be honored to help you work through it. You know, if he sees you as a potential life partner and he's on board and he's being clear and open with you about his intentions.
Yeah, it's we get so scared about expressing these insecurities and uncertainties, and they are in fact what bonds us and what allows us to bond more deeply to the person. So I love what Matt said there. Go ahead and share it. We've got a question here from Lucia, and then we're just about out of time. Let me see if I can find it here. Where did it go? Oh, you guys are so lovely, leaving so many questions. Thank you for your live questions. Here it is. So Lucia asked, I think I'm stuck in a relationship with an emotionally unavailable guy, and sometimes it seems to me that he's slightly changing and becomes more open to me, but then messes up and hurts me again with the silent treatment, for example. Now the question is, how many second chances should I give him? My initial response to this, Lucia, is there's a need from you for either connection or closeness that isn't being fully met. That's the impression I get, that he's leaning away and that something here is not ticking over for you. And it feels to me like you've unfortunately ended up in a situation where you're tolerating that a little bit. where I'm getting the silent treatment. Now the question is, how many second chances should I give him? This is one of those questions for me where if you're a client, I look you straight in the eyes or straight in the Zoom, and I'd say, what does the healthiest you need in this situation? And I get you to be really honest with me and just speak your own truth, and have to come from your gut. But you know it. I believe you know it. I believe it's in there. And so I'd help you get down, okay, what are your needs here? And is this relationship healthy for you? And I think you'd be able to give me a really good answer from your intuition. And from that, I'd work there with you to be able to either, express those needs, or to be able to move away from someone who's basically demonstrating on repeated occasions that they're not willing to lean into their fears the same way you are. So I'd sort of check in with your own intuition, get a gauge on your part of you, I think, knows how healthy this is and knows whether you're accepting repeated poor treatment here or whether this can be changed. So I tap into that part, get that truth, and then basically act on that from there. Matt, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one.
Absolutely. I got a lot to say on this one. I first off want to start with attempting pronunciation of this lovely young lady's name, because I pride myself on name pronunciation. All right. So tell me if I'm doing this one right, my dear. Lucia Shkodnikova. Did I nail it or did I nail it? Please let me know. Let us know in the comments if I know. Lucia Shkodnikova.
Actually. So yeah,
Lucia. It's with a S sound in the middle, brother. It's not Lucia. It's Lucia, because she's Russian.
I've seen a couple of years, so I'm curious. Anyway, back to you.
Okay, so again, and secondarily, right? Okay, so as far as the emotionally unavailable guy, and what an alarm bell that goes off in my head when you tell me that he's emotionally unavailable, you're stuck in a relationship with a man who's emotionally unavailable. So first off, you're never stuck in any relationship that you've ever been in, right? Your relationships are always a choice that you make. So you're not helpless in this scenario. You know what I'm saying? So secondarily, if he's emotionally unavailable, and sometimes he seems like he changes a little bit, but then he messes up and he does things like stonewalling you and pushes you back away. A lot of times that's an example of the anxious avoidant trap, which happens at the attachment style level. So there is a possibility that this man has avoidant attachment style, which means that he construes and interprets emotional vulnerability and intimacy as a threat to his freedom. Okay. People who are avoidant attachment style, they like to keep you at a very specific little box of where they want you in terms of vulnerability and intimacy. Right. And then, and they like to, they oftentimes attract people who have anxious attachment style. Right. So anxious attachment style people are constantly wanting more from them. Right. And pushing forward on them, and they're pushing back, trying to keep you out there. And so what happens is, as soon as an avoidant partner gets too close to, as soon as an anxious partner gets too close to an avoidant partner, they use a deactivation strategy like stonewalling and shutting down on you to push you away. Because every time you get too close and they get scared, it proves them right as to, oh, well, this woman's trying to take my freedom. She's trying to, get closer to me than I'm willing to go. And then they push you away. And it's like, it's validating for them, and it's devastating. It's emotionally hard for you. So I want you to look at the pattern in relationship and ask yourself, am I caught in an anxious avoidant trap? Because when two people are in that space, they've confused triggering and stimulation of attachment style with chemistry and romantic love. Just because you're constantly going up and down on this emotional roller coaster, it doesn't mean that y'all are in love. It could be that y'all are just triggering each other a lot. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately for the anxious partner, it comes at their expense. The avoidant partner, at the end of the day, they get what they need, and then they go on their way, right? And then the instant that you pull away, they'll come in a little bit, which is sort of what it seems like he's doing a little bit, right? So if he keeps going back and forth and he keeps pushing you back away, then that's a clear demonstration to you of sort of where he's at and what he wants. And so you got to ask yourself, why are you continuing to give him second chances? On the hope that he's going to turn into somebody that you see potential for, because a lot of times you're in denial about who he is, because he's showing you who he is through how his actions are, right? When people show you who they are, believe them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love that, Matt, and I love that you brought that back to attachment styles. It definitely seems like he's being triggered with that, and if he's not willing to show up and lean into that, and I'm avoidant myself, so I can relate a little bit.
Are you?
Us, yeah.
That's why you've never told me you love me, Mark. It's devastating to me.
That's why, man. I've been too scared of losing my independence. Right? I can't.
I'll take everything you got, bro.
That I can't do it. I just need space. Okay. That's what us avoidants do. So, avoidance. if you want to date us, we have to lean in. That's we have to either make a conscious decision. Well, it really has to be a conscious decision, or an action-based decision to lean into that fear. And to, if I'm working with an avoidant client, sometimes it's like we need to get her to own that she might even say to the guy, "Hey, I'm terrified of losing my independence around you," or "I'm terrified of you abandoning me if I fail." So the avoidant person, bottom line, has to lean into that fear consistently, and you've got to demonstrate that you're not going to trigger that fear, and that all happens through a really open form of communication.
Mm-hmm. And another thing, Lucia. I love that you shared that, Mark, because I didn't know that you were avoidant, man. That's really interesting.
I lean avoidant.
Yeah. Because I'm secure. I think you're secure, but you lean avoidant, and I'm secure and I lean anxious. Is sort of like my tendency, because I was anxious, attachment style for most of my 20s. Like
right.
Yeah, wow. And so, like, I understand being on the other side of it, because I used to attract avoidant partners, and I know how frustrating it can be to be the anxious partner in that dynamic. And Lucia is saying here that I'm giving him the second chances because I remember how good it can be. So the question, Lucia, is, okay, so it can be that good for a moment, right? But over time, how is it? How is it overall? Like, pull out of that little micro moment where he comes in on his white horse and like does all the things that you want to pull you in, and ask yourself, like, how is he consistently over time? Because if he's consistently showing up, as avoidant and unwilling to be there for you on a regular basis, then that's him demonstrating to you sort of like where he's at truly, right? And he also needs to know that you're willing to walk away. Because if he knows he's always going to get a second chance, you know what I'm saying? Then he's going to keep yo-yoing you back and forth.
Yeah.
You know how it is. Like, as an avoidant partner, Mark, like, you're not going to feel really willing to lean into what's uncomfortable for you and change unless your partner is willing to go. Right?
Yeah, she did. There was a point where she did. She said it in a nice way, but it was a good example. She's like, "Look, I'd just been kind of like being a bit avoidant, not really wanting to commit," and she was just like, "Look, if you're not in this, you got to let me know."
Mm-hmm.
And that was all she said. But, the backbone behind it spoke volumes. And it just really sent me a message that's like, okay, Mark, you're on the chopping block here. Like, are you going to step up or are you not? And because of that, I had to. And I had to learn to consistently lean into that avoidance, because that's pretty much what she trained me to do, right? But it's also because I chose to, and it's, stuff with my own coach too. So there's different pieces to it. But the bottom line is that if someone's avoidant, they've got to learn to lean into that, and they've got to do it consistently. And if they're not doing that, you got to ask yourself, just like Matt says, hey, I don't have to be here. I know what I deserve, and I'm willing to put the actions in place to get that.
Absolutely. And the fact that she characterizes it's long distance, it's been almost a year, we meet a few times a month, and it feels like a drug addiction, only it's a man. Like, I talk about the anxious avoidant trap. It is addictive. It's like an addictive, because you're addicted to the roller coaster of the highs and lows of, oh my God, he's into me, this is so beautiful. And then, oh my God, he's pushing me away, this is so painful. And it's like the drama of it because it's this up and down, it's these dopamine surges and that you're getting back and forth. And, you get strung out on that. I know, I was there, right? Because the moments that are good feel so fucking good.
I've said it was more than me, and geez, it felt good. it was just like when I won and when I had, I was like, this is the best thing ever. Like, oh, I'm high as a kite right now. But then they disappear and you get all anxious. And after a few months, I was like, this is fucking me up. Like, this is actually making me more insecure every time I stay with this woman. So, it's dropped.
Yes,
But it does feel damn good.
Exact. So Lucia, you know, shameless plug. We go through attachment style in the course. So we unpack that in week 2 of Mastery of Connection. So you know, come on over and we'll unpack it in my course starting February 8th. So just, you know, come on in. We got links in the comments. I tried to post one. I don't know if it showed up, but you know, if you come over, it's free. It's 3-week course, and we'd love to support you over there.
Tried to post a link there. Hey, Matt Schaffer, I want to thank you so much for coming in. And you, the viewer, I want to thank you for being here, not just for today, but Ask Mark 100. There's 100 videos. I'm just eternally grateful to you for supporting me and for supporting the channel. And even since the first little video in my living room and just answering your questions, I'm sorry we couldn't get to everyone's today. We try to get to as many as we could. If you post them on videos, we go through the videos, we search them out, I answer them in the Ask Marks. So I'll get to as many as I can, I promise. And yeah, just a big thank you from me for supporting me through the first 100 episodes of Ask Mark, to the next 100, to maybe the next 1,000. It's been an absolute pleasure, you know, doing this, and just appreciating. I appreciate you so much for it. And Matt, thank you so much for coming in.
Dude, it was a pleasure, man. And congratulations, bro. Congratulations on doing 100 Ask Marks, bro. That's a lot of Q&A, buddy. That's an amazing commitment to your audience.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. So don't forget, you can join Matt's course. If you want to do that, you can. There's a link here. I'll pop it in again, and I'll add a link to the description as well. And if you want to work with me as well, there's links and stuff there that you can do that. Mine's a bit different to Matt's. It's all sort of one-on-one, so it's a different style. But you can check that out and inquire about that as well. So thank you again, Matt, for coming in. Big shout out to Anya, and we're going to get Helena on as well. Thank you for supporting the channel. It really does mean the world to me. Happy New Year, and this is going to be your year for love.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a great one.